Sorry about being late. Can everybody hear me loudly and clearly? I don't know. Gonna do an episode with a difference today. Oh, here he is. Nice of you to join us, Daryl. When you coming back on the show, brother? You need to come back on the show at some point, DAZN, and do a shift. Don't slack. Hey Jay, how you doing? Jay, do you know what? Do you know your boxing video, Jay? I will make a note and I will get around to that this week. The reason I didn't want to look at your boxing video, Jay, was because I didn't do any boxing during COVID. So I was thinking, how can I judge other people's boxing videos when I ain't done no training during COVID? But I've been in the gym regular for the last couple of months and lost about 6 kilos. So I will have a look at that. Hope everybody's doing all right. Look, man. Yeah, we're going to do an episode with a difference, man. This is going to be a bit like a therapy session for me. Oh, hold on a minute, guys. Let me just do one thing. Shit. There's one thing I forgot to do. So let me just quickly do this in the YouTube settings. I've completely messed up. One, I need to quickly make the chat subscribers only. So if you'd like to jump in the chat, please feel free to hit the subscribe button and you can jump in and ask a question. So feel free to do that. Let me just quickly jump in here. Made a bit of a meal. I forgot to do some of the key things that I need to do before I do this show. Oh, live chat replay is already on. And there we go. Let's change this to subscribers mode only. Bosh. Anxiety. Let's get onto it. Anxiety. Let me tell you something. Actually, let me say this, because you know you're going to get muppets who are going to come in and go, oh, you're taking a mick out of Anthony Joshua. No, I'm not. I'm someone who suffers from severe anxiety. I'll tell you in a minute some of the anxiety that I go through, okay? So we'll discuss it. I'll tell you some of the anxiety that I go through. I suffer from very, very, very bad anxiety. I have blown... How much do you think I've blown on going to doctors? I've probably blown somewhere in the region of 10 grand. Going to doctors to get examined for stuff when doctors don't think anything's wrong with me. Some people spend 10 grand on coke and hookers. I've blown close to 10 grand on private doctors, consultations, exams, scans, all sorts, because of the anxiety of something being wrong, of something being wrong physically, health-wise, and whatnot. So we'll talk about I know a lot about anxiety. I suffer very, very heavily from OCD, snazzy, very heavily from OCD. We'll talk about that, and that's how I know Anthony Joshua's got a problem with anxiety. Like, I think Anthony Joshua's anxieties, I'm not saying it's absolutely dreadful, right? Because he gets to the boxing ring and everything like that. But I think he's got a big problem. I think I've been saying this for years about him, or for a good while about him. I think it's a lot worse than what he lets on. And I think it's a lot worse than people make out. Kind of started during the Andy Ruiz fight, didn't it? And people started thinking, he had a panic attack, didn't he, on the way to the ring, which he's always denied, which I buy into that. Look, if he says he didn't have a panic attack, he didn't have one, right? But people always say, going to the ring to the Ruiz fight, they say he didn't look right. And there have always been rumours about him that he had a panic attack, didn't he, on the way to the ring? You could see something in his eyes. He looked a bit glazed over. But it was what it was, wasn't it? I do think he struggles heavily with fear of failure. That's what I think, honestly. Oh, Jesus. You guys can't take nothing seriously, can you? 10K, that's Fowler's pushchair budget for 2022. What the fuck is wrong with you? You can't even go 4 minutes and 34 seconds being serious. Anthony Fowler spending 1,700 on a Versace pushchair for his kid, but he shops in Iceland. It is what it is. That's enough to give anybody anxiety. But anyway, yeah. And then there was the Joey Dueco thing. I don't know if that was true or not. I have to be honest with you. I always take those sparring rumours with a pinch of salt. But it was weird, wasn't it, that Joey Dueco then ended up on a DAZN card, like literally like a couple of weeks later. Do you remember that? There was allegations that he'd been knocked out in sparring by Joey Jericho. I'm not sure I believe those, but what was odd was that all of a sudden Joey Jericho ended up on a DAZN card a couple of weeks later. I mean, maybe that's just coincidence, or maybe just because he was in fight shape and they needed a fight, and it was what it was. But that was very, very strange, wasn't it? But I think, look, I think he struggles with the fear of failure. That's my opinion on it. I think he struggles with the fear of being humiliated, which there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think all fighters have that to a certain degree, don't they? To a certain degree. But it's the levels that you have it to. Like, no fighter believes they're invincible. Well, maybe you get the odd couple throughout history, but for the most part, no fighter really believes they're invincible. Most fighters know when they go into the ring, they can have an off night, something can happen and whatnot. But it's about balancing it. It's like with anything in life, isn't it? You need to have a good balance. Sometimes, like I said, fear is good for you because it keeps you alert. It keeps you, on point. Some fighters say the worst thing that you can do is go into the ring and have no fear. Go into the ring and have no fear. And some fighters say that's when they've performed the worst over their career, when they've gone into the fight and they've had no fear whatsoever. They haven't been defensively responsible. They've taken shots they shouldn't have. We've seen this in boxing many a time. I think Carl Froch had that when he fought George Groves the first time, didn't he? He said he knew it was a problem when he went into the ring. He didn't have not much fear. I think Josh Taylor went into the ring with Jack Catterall. And I think, like I said, I think he jumped into that ring thinking it was going to be a fucking walkover. And it turned out not to be a walkover. So it is what it is. So, yeah, I agree, Dench. Fear is natural. You should embrace it. But I think there becomes a certain point where it just takes you over. And I wonder what if Anthony Joshua was getting to that point before these fights, or in the run-up to these fights, where the fear of letting people down. I think he'll have fear of letting people down because we all know about his fan base, don't we? Anthony Joshua's fan base. I mean, his fan base is absolutely... If you ask his fan base, do you think he has any fear before his fights? I think a lot of his fan base think he's the Terminator, don't they? A lot of his fan base think he's the Terminator. He's got absolutely no fear. He walks straight in. David Price is a great example. You know what? I actually bought a sports psychology pack from the guy that coached David Price before his fight with Dave Allen. So David Price is sports psychologist. There's a guy called Dr. Patrick Cohen. And I've actually gone and bought a pack, which I have. I haven't actually gone through it in full. But it's about being a confident athlete and maximizing your confidence. And that's who David Price saw before his fight with Dave Allen, which was the best performance of his career. I mean, we'll counterbalance that. He probably then went and saw Dr. Patrick Cohen again before his fight with Sergei Kuzmin. And he shat the bed in that fight as well. So it was what it is. But David Price is another. I think David Price is a brilliant example of somebody who had all the physical attributes. Again, stamina was a big problem, but somebody who had all the physical attributes, really, to be a lot more than what they were. And unfortunately, what was it? And again, David Price, again, he's another guy who people don't realise he had fucking, not for that, but I mean, Tony Bellew was saying he is the heir to the Klitschko throne. I mean, it was assumed that David Price was going to... It's a long time ago in boxing, but people don't get that. David Price in his heyday, knocking these guys out on Box Nation with Frank Maloney as the promoter, right? It was just assumed that David Price was going to be heavyweight champion and dominate the division. It was just de facto assumed. It was only like a matter of time. All these fights he was taking with the likes of Tony Thompson and whatnot, these were just passing time fights. It was only a matter of time before David Price was going to dominate the division for years to come, and it didn't happen. And I think the pressure just got to him. I don't know. Talk about how we go through it in a minute, but if AJ gets beat by Usyk, right, I think we're going to start hearing a lot more about what he's going through. Because I've questioned sometimes if they've even tried to give him medication for it or something. And we know he's got a sports psychologist. There's nothing wrong with seeing a sports psychologist whatsoever. And there's nothing wrong with seeing a sports psychologist, right? But with Anthony Joshua, sometimes I've even wondered if he's been on meds, or if he's been recommended meds or do whatever. Because we all know some of the statements that he's come out with have been quite bizarre, haven't they? So, for instance, right, when he lost to Usyk the second time and he was looking for a new trainer, do you remember he highlighted the importance of having a trainer who was giving him motivational speeches? Do you remember that? see if I can Google that on the other screen. Do you remember that? Do you guys remember the kind of comments he was making after the fight to Ruiz? Where he said he wasn't happy with his training team. And what he wanted was a coach who was going to give him motivational speeches before fights. That's the one. That's the one. Do you remember when he was talking about sort of brain training and motivational speeches? I'll drag it right up on the screen and stuff. There's nothing wrong with that to a certain degree, but do you remember that? Little clues, isn't it? They're little clues. Little clues. There's nothing wrong with having to prep fighters up, but motivational speeches. See, I think what happened, I'm just guessing here, I think Anthony Joshua has an ongoing battle with anxiety, and I think even some people close to him don't really know how bad it is. Maybe Rob McCracken never knew how bad it was with Anthony Joshua. Maybe he never knew, like, just how much Anthony Joshua sort of doubted himself, or maybe some of the apprehensions that he had, if that makes sense. Some of the apprehensions that he had in his head. Maybe Rob McCracken didn't know just how much Anthony Joshua had these intrusive thoughts coming in his head. So maybe he thought, look, this guy's a machine. I don't need to give him motivational speeches. The guy's a machine. Maybe Rob McCracken thought, you know what? I don't want to give him motivational speeches because I don't want to sort of push him even further over the edge. Sometimes you can do that. Sometimes when you've got someone with anxiety and you try to sort of overdo it and you go, don't be scared, don't be scared. There's no reason for you to be scared. You're going to be fine. You're going to be okay. Don't be worried. You know, don't be this, don't be that. Sometimes by doing that, you can actually make people anxious by doing that. Does that make sense? By bringing up anxiety, sometimes people think it's better to just not talk about it at all. You know, you've got a fighter in camp, don't bring anxiety into it. Don't bring fear into it. You know, it's sort of like the elephant in the room, the hidden elephant in the room. Don't bring it up. Don't bring it up. Thought of losing, don't bring it up. What's going to happen if you lose? Don't bring it up. How are you going to cope if you lose? Don't bring it up. You've got any sort of apprehensions? Don't bring it up. Don't bring it up, because if you bring it up, maybe you can start setting seeds in the fighter's head. So it's a weird one, isn't it? It's almost the kind of you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But for me, yeah, when I started seeing those kind of comments about Anthony Joshua, you know, motivational speeches and things like that, and the kind of stuff he was saying around that, I think he's got a bit of a problem. Snazzy Azzy says, Ultra, can you agree with me how crippling it can be day to day if you suffer from it? All right, so I'll tell you now, right? If you guys want to ask a question about it, anxiety, or if you guys want to ask a question about Anthony, or if you've got any comments, if you just make comments, I'll read them out. I'm not planning for this to be a very, very long show. So for me, I can say for me personally, anxiety has ruined my life. But then again, I deserve that because I've done some very bad things in my life. So I'm no angel. So I probably on the karmic balance, I probably deserve it. But anxiety for me, if you're asking about me per se, is absolutely and utterly ruined my life in terms of I have a lot, and that's what it does. It robs you of potential. Anxiety robs you of your potential. And it will do that to anybody. It will do that to, look at Anthony Joshua, yeah? One of the best physiques in the history of boxing. One of the hardest punchers to ever step in the boxing ring. And a good boxer and an Olympic gold medalist, right? And he's on the verge of losing 3 of his last 5 fights. If he gets beaten by Alexander Usyk, he's going to lose 3 of his last 5 fights. And a lot of that really is because technically he's not good enough, but we'll talk about that another time. But he's not the first fighter, Anthony Joshua, to be technically limited. And some fighters like Deontay Wilder is extremely technically limited. But look at the heights he reached. He became one of the longest reigning WBC heavyweight champions of all time. And he was extremely technically limited. So, again, you look at Deontay Wilder, technically limited. But some people would say he overachieved. Olympic bronze medalist, 10 or so, or how many WBC title defenses, made £46 million in the year 2020. Have you seen how he lives? Have you seen his house? Made for life. Never needs to box again. Family set for generations. And some people would say he overachieved. But for some people, anxiety, it robs you of your potential. What is Anthony Joshua's ceiling? Because in boxing, that extra 0.5%, that extra 1%, that extra 2%, that could be the difference between winning and losing. when you're fighting at a certain level, you know what I mean. When it doesn't matter if you're boxing or you're sparring, and everybody's at that kind of same level. In this case, Anthony Joshua's level is world class, isn't it? Everybody's at that same level. The margins are so thin. It's like Formula One. All these guys, you've got fucking 20 drivers in different cars, right? 20 drivers in different cars. They're all set up differently. All the cars are different. They've got different wings. They've got different fucking engine parts. They've got all kinds of different things. And guess what? When it all shakes out, if you look at the top 3, top 4, what are they? They're like 1/10 of a second. All different cars, all different parts, all different front wings, drivers from different countries, different team members, blah, blah, blah. When it comes down to it, it's that 1/10 of a second, isn't it? 1/10 of a second. That's the difference between being world champion and never being a champion. 1/10 of a second. So that's why I say anxiety robs you of your potential, you know. I don't want to make this about me. Sorry, that's why I'm kind of ooming and ahhing. This is quite difficult for me because I want to talk about, but I don't want to make it a pity party about me. I do want to talk about Anthony Joshua. Daryl, I will get to your comment in just a sec. Right, let me answer your question directly. What's this? Snazzy Azzy. It's robbed me of my potential. I'm trying to get your comment up so people can see it, but I can't find it. It's absolutely robbed me of my potential in my career. I could have been so much more. But it's, you know, I'm fucking, I'll be honest with you, I fucking hate going outside. I'm scared to go outside. 100%. I have no problem telling people this stuff, you know. I don't want to make it about me, but I've got no problem being candid about my anxiety. Not to make it a pity party. But the one thing that I have is, when I tell people this, they get quite shocked. I've told people about this before, and they get quite shocked. And they say, Ultra, you come across as a very, very confident guy. When I went for this job that I'm in now, and I told people at the job, this is when we were still in the office, and I told people in the job, you know, I suffer from anxiety, and, you know, I've got real problems with self-confidence and this, and I remember speaking to this guy, and this guy just said, are you crazy? He said, when you walked in the office for this job interview, we've never seen anybody look as confident as you. When you walked in the office for the job interview and you was walking around talking to people, we've never seen anybody as confident as you. Never. You look like, you know, blah, 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 blah. I was like, no, that's not how it looks. That's not how it is, you know. Every time I go outside, I feel like I get beaten up, or something could happen, or something bad could happen. And to link it into Anthony Joshua, it's the fear of failure is what's robbed me of my potential. That's where a lot of my anxiety comes from. Fear of failure and fear of dying. Those two. Fear of failure, all fighters, all athletes have to deal with that. But it's that, what if you lose? What if you get humiliated? And it revolves around what people will think about you. I think that's what a lot of it revolves around, doesn't it? Because you can deal with it. If you lose, you can deal with it. But it's what other people think about you. If I go out of my missus right now and I get into a confrontation and somebody knocks me spark out, which can happen at any time. Like in a fight on the street, it's not like a boxing fight. It's normally first one lands. Simple as that, isn't it? It's first one lands, you get sucker punched. Anything could happen at any time. Just go on YouTube. Do you know how many videos there are? We've been through some of them on this video of big dudes just getting sparked out. Seen it, innit? A million times on YouTube, innit? Big dudes, bodybuilding dudes, and you think, wow, these dudes are destroyed. Just get sparked out. Sparked out. I've seen videos online of big dudes with their girlfriend, and they're acting all tough, and they get clipped and they go over. Why if that happened to me in front of mom? What would she think of it? So it's not even like how you could deal with it. Anthony Joshua could probably deal with it himself. If I lose, I lose. Because he knows, doesn't he? This is a boxing ring, isn't it? He knows, like, this is a boxing ring. One punch can end it all, heavyweight boxing. All I can do is go in and do my best. If I lose, I lose. From that perspective, I think he's all right. But I think it's all it's the added pressure of all the hangers on, isn't it? It's the hangers-on. That's where it really plays in. It's what will people think about me? What will other people think of me? It's almost like when you care too much about what people think, innit? That's when the anxiety starts setting in. What will other people think about me? What will all these girls that I'm shagging think about me when I lose? If I lose, will they look at me the same way? Will they still have respect for me? All these people here, look, I've got Jim Jones here. You see Jim Jones here on the right-hand side? Jim Jones, you got Jim Jones. Anthony Joshua got a camp full of the hardest light-skinned men, yeah, on planet Earth. I don't know where he finds them, you know. I need to get in contact with 256 management. AJ out here finding the hardest light-skinned people on Earth. And then look at here, look at you got here. Can you see here, look, opposite AJ, you've got the Hodge twins here. Look at this guy on the left-hand side, this tank on the left-hand side. Look at this, you've got the Hodge twins here, innit, on the left and the right. And then look at the back, you've got Adebisi from Oz at the back. You've got Adebisi there. You've got Adebisi. And of course, you've got the king of the light-skinned men, you've got Sir Leon Skinner. So you're going out to dinner with all these people. They're all wearing AJ t-shirts, 256 management t-shirts. Do you know what I mean? They're all tough guys. They look up to you. AJ says he watches a lot of gangster films, doesn't he? That's what he does, right? AJ, innit? He says he watches a lot of gangster movies, doesn't he? Big Meech and all that fucking shit. He probably watches it with this lot, doesn't he? And you just think, shit, man, what happens to me if I get knocked out? What happens to me if I get knocked out? Especially by somebody that I'm not supposed to get knocked out by. What happens if I get knocked out by a cruiserweight like Usyk? Or if I get knocked out by a short fat bloke like Andy Ruiz? What's going to happen? Are these guys going to respect me anymore? Or are they going to look up to me anymore? Or that kind of thing. These thoughts do creep in your head, don't they? They proper creep in your head. What will my missus think? What will my missus think of me? She sees me get beat up by another man. She sees me get knocked unconscious by another man. She's going to lose respect for me. She's still going to want to sleep with me. Is my career going to be over? Will I ever recover? That kind of thing. Shebet says that's why he fought Ruiz too in that manner. He don't want to get knocked out in front of all those people. Absolutely. Do you remember when? I'll talk about that in a minute. Actually, he was fucking. He was fucking spooked by Wilder. I'm telling you, he was fucking. I know. I'll get so much flack for saying that, right? But mentally, I promise you, he was spooked by Wilder because, and I'm this, and this, I'm not. I'm saying this because I suffer from the same things. Same things. So you heard the story that Wilder said about how Anthony Joshua ran into his brother in New York or something, or what happened. Anthony Joshua was out in the States and he ran into Wilder's brother or one of Wilder's people who ran into one of Wilder's team. And the fucking first thing that Anthony Joshua asked was, is Deontay Wilder really that confident? What's he like in real life? Is he really that confident? Is he really like... When I heard that, straight away I knew this guy might have a problem with anxiety. Do you know why I knew? That's the kind of thing I do. That's the kind of thing I do. You know, you see people and you build them up in your head to be something that they're not. That's the most frustrating thing about what I suffer with. You see somebody who really and truly, you know, you should be dealing with. But you build them up in your head to be this big fucking deal. You build them up in your head to be like, fuck, you know, this guy, you know, he looks like he's got no fear. He looks like he's got no fear. He looks destructive. He looks like he 100% believes in himself. But I have doubts. Does he have doubts like me? Because I'm good. I I'm good, but I've got doubts in myself. You know, sometimes I wake up in the morning and I don't feel up for it. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and, you know, I feel vulnerable. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and I think, fuck, does he wake up in the morning like me and think that? Does he wake up in the morning and doubt himself? Doesn't look like he does. Let me find out. Let me find out. Let me try and get a bit of comfort. Does that make sense? Press 1 if it makes sense. Press 2 if it doesn't. So because you build you build up your opponent, or you build the person up in your head to be this big fucking Shao Kahn type beast. You build them up so much, and you're like, fuck. So you start trying to humanize. Is this guy really? He must have a weakness. He must doubt himself. What he wanted to hear was, nah, Deontay's just putting on an act. He's not like that, really. That's why I think he wanted to hear. Nah, Deontay's not like that. He's not that confident. He's just an act. He's just a bronze bomber, but he's just like everybody else. He's not really the bronze bomber. A lot of that's an act, you know. He has doubts too. He wakes up in the morning. He has doubts too. He wakes up in the morning. He feels sore. He wakes up in the morning. He doubts himself. He's been knocked out. He's been knocked out in sparring a bunch of times, just like I have. He's not much different to you. That's the kind of thing he wants to hear. That's the kind of thing I want to hear. I don't know. Guys, just tell me, am I rambling on or am I making sense here? I find it pretty difficult to talk about, but let me know. So when I heard that shit that Andy Joshua said to one of Wilder's teams, straight away, my antenna started going up because I'm like, well, I can relate to that because I do the same thing. I look for weaknesses in people the same way to compensate for my own weaknesses. Paul White says, I think he's got anxiety. That's a lovely picture of you and your missus there, Paul White. Where are you at? It looks like you're somewhere in Italy or Spain. It's a very nice picture. I think he's got anxiety issues. I've noticed the way he talks in interviews before, when he strays away from the humble man thing. Absolutely. He seems to care an awful lot about perception. And that's when anxiety starts creeping in, when you start overly caring about what other people think. I think Tyson Fury isn't immortal. He knows he can be beaten in a fight. Listen, if you watch Tyson Fury with the face-off he had with Vladimir Klitschko, do you guys remember the face-off that Tyson Fury had with Vladimir Klitschko on Box Nation when they did the face-to-face? The gloves are off. As someone, I straight away knew that guy was in trouble. Straight away, I knew he was in trouble at Tyson Fury. When he started saying shit like, do you know what? I'll probably go into this fight with Klitschko. And I'll probably come in undertrained. I'll probably get knocked out again. People will say I'm a bum, and you can tell. Tyson Fury has his own problems. Even before the Wilder fight, he says things like, look, Wilder's a massive puncher. You get caught, that could be the end of it. He says this stuff before his fights. So the point I'm trying to make here is, I'm not trying to say that Tyson Fury suffers from anxiety like Anthony Joshua does. I don't think he does. I think Tyson Fury suffers from depression, and Anthony Joshua suffers from very bad anxiety, right? So I think they've got kind of two different problems. But the point I'm trying to make is, Tyson Fury isn't immortal. He doesn't go into the ring and think there's no way I can lose this fight. He goes to fights. All 3 Wilder fights he went into, he's like, look, I could get ironed out. He said it. His wife as well, Paris. His wife said it, and Shevin brought that up. Even his own wife said a million times, he could get laid out. But here's the difference between Fury and AJ, right? That I want to bring up. I think the key is that Fury cares less about what people think about him than what AJ does, if that makes sense. And I think that's why AJ really suffers from the brunt of it. I think Fury goes into the ring with Wilder and he thinks, look, I could get ironed out here. He knew it. That's why when Fury got knocked down in the manner that he did by Wilder, did you ever see Fury panic in any of them 3 fights? Obviously, in the second fight, he never got knocked down. But if you look at all of them 3 fights, Wilder versus Fury, Fury hit the canvas 4 times in those fights. Did he ever panic? Never panicked once, did he? Ever. In any of them 4. That's probably what saved him in those fights, you know. Think about it logically. If he'd have got up too soon in the first fight and stumbled around, that fight would have got stopped. If he'd got up too early in that first fight, do you remember in the first fight he said, I got laid down, I couldn't feel my legs. So I had to take time, quickly, take the time, chill, and then get up. He wasn't surprised because he knew when he got in there, he knew what the deal was. He knew what the deal was when he got in there. He'd already been through the, look, I could get laid out here. I'm in the ring with the most dangerous puncher in boxing. I could get laid out, right? So here's the point I'm trying to make. Fury does feel fear. He does feel fear. That's normal. But the difference between Fury and AJ is this. And this is what's crushing AJ. And this is why Fury is the champion and why AJ isn't to a degree, right? Here's the difference between AJ and Fury. Here's where they veer off. AJ sits in that room and he thinks, fuck, what are people going to think about me? That's the difference. He thinks, fuck, I'm a role model to all these people. He talks about it. Look who he talks about. He talks about it. Let's go to this interview. And he talks about how important it is for him to conduct himself in a certain way and be a role model to other people and conduct himself. That's the difference. That's the difference. Fury isn't sitting there in the changing room thinking, fuck, what are people going to think about me if I get sparked out? What are people going to say about me if I get sparked out? You know, if I get sparked out, you know, if I get knocked out, I'm going to get so much abuse on social media. You know, if I get knocked out by Usyk in this rematch, I'll probably won't be able to switch on my phone for the next week. Because it's going to be full of people telling me my career's over. It's going to be full of people telling me that my career's over, that I should retire. You're going to have people like Eddie Hearn saying that it might be time for me to retire. You're going to have the likes of Carl Froch, Amir Khan, all the pundits, Johnny Nelson's. All these people are going to be dragging my name through the mud. They're going to be telling me it's time to retire, time to call it a day. They're going to call me an on-top fighter. They're going to say I'm finished. They're going to say all these things about me. That's the difference between Fury and AJ. Fury don't think about that stuff. Or he doesn't pay as much attention to it as AJ does. In Fury's head, I get sparked out, my wife still loves me. That's the difference when you've got someone like Paris Fury in your corner. That's the difference when you've got Paris Fury in the corner. Someone like Paris Fury. Who will tell him? She'll tell him. Behind the scenes, she will say, look, Tyson, no matter what happens to you in this fight, no matter how many times you hit the canvas, I don't care if you get knocked out in the first 10 seconds of the fight. I will always love you, and I will never, ever think of you any different regardless. But he knows that. Do you understand how powerful that is? He knows that. He knows that. He knows he could get knocked out in 10 seconds against Otto Warling, yeah, or Steve Cunningham or whoever. He knows he could get knocked out in 10 seconds, and he knows he could go home to his wife, and he knows his wife would think exactly the same about him that she did in the, you know, when they woke up that morning. Nothing would change. Their lifestyle wouldn't change. That's very powerful, you know. Takes the pressure off a lot. Does Anthony Joshua have that? Does he have people around him like that? That's the difference, isn't it? That's the difference. So that's what's doing him. That's what does me, and I think that's what's doing Anthony Joshua. It's the fear of what people will think about you. You know, you've got all these people on social media saying bad things about you, right? You've got all, and I'm talking about myself. You've got a lot of people on social media saying bad things about you. You've got a lot of people on social media who want to see you get humiliated what's going to happen if Ultra gets humiliated? How am I ever going to live this down if something was to happen to me on this channel? How would I ever live it down? Nobody would ever take me seriously again. Nobody would ever want to hear what I have to say again. Nobody would ever have respect for me ever again. Oh yeah, we're all mates now, aren't we? We're all mates now, but what if something happened to me? Because people on the internet turn very, very quickly. You know what social media is like. And you know what people on social media are like. I'm telling you very, very quickly what would happen. These thoughts go through your head. And it robs you of your potential. I'm not saying Anthony Joshua's got it worse than me. He hasn't. I'm just saying I've got it very bad. All I'll say is from my point of view, I'll say for me, right? Someone asked about me. I wake up in a day. I'm so used to being anxious. If I wake up for a day and don't feel anxious, there's a problem. That's how used I am to being in a perpetual state of anxiety. Constant anxiety. Constant anxiety. Constant anxiety. To the point where if I'm not anxious, there's a problem. Like I would worry about it. If I wasn't anxious, I would just worry about it. Every day, about everything. Crazy D3 says, ultimately, there's no point in caring what others think when really and truly these others don't care. Of course, yeah. Of course. It's hard to rationalize, though, and that's where it gets you in it. You try to rationalize, but it doesn't fucking work. If you guys want to talk about your anxiety as well, if you guys want to talk about AJ, what do you guys think? Do you think I'm right? Do you think AJ? I think it's going to come out. Sorry. It's just going to block somebody. So, somebody said to me on Twitter. Somebody just said to me on Twitter, is your content lacking so much that you're forced to talk about if Anthony Joshua suffers from anxiety or not? You're not a doctor. Do you know what I mean? Now, the simple thing would be just to not comment, not watch. But I'm just saying, as someone who really badly suffers from it, I thought, look, I might just talk about it and say, look, it's okay. You know? It's okay. Because people think, when you have anxiety, you think, nah, nobody thinks what I think. You think you're the only person in the world who thinks the fucked up shit you think. You just think, oh, you're the only person in the world, don't you? You think, oh, only I think like that. Or people like Anthony Joshua don't have thoughts like that because they're big bodybuilders who can knock people out. But no, people do think like that. Mr. J. Art says, do you ever sit there watching a film or something and think life is good? I got this to look forward to too, and then that to look. Hold on. Do you ever sit there watching a film or something and think life is good? I got this to look forward to, and that to look forward to. Then you think something bad. Of course, yeah, of course. What's that called? It's called catastrophizing. Something bad is around the corner. That's called catastrophizing. I do tons of that. So I always think something bad's going to happen. Do you know what I think? I believe that if something good happens, then something bad will happen to even it up. So what happens to me is, if I have a good day, I get anxious because how I think is, let's see how my mind works. My mind thinks that due to karma and balance and things like that, which we'll talk about another time, I think like if I have a good day, then there's going to be a bad day coming around the corner. So that's how I work. So if I have a good day, I get anxious straight away. And I say to my missus, I'll say, shit, I had a great day. Something bad's going to happen tomorrow. But you know how hard it is for her to deal with me? You don't know how hard it is for her to deal with me, man. It's hard because I think crazy shit. It's hard to be with someone who thinks like that. You know, who struggles to have a good time. Who, if they have a good time, they start getting anxious because they feel like, oh shit, well, I've had a good time today, so that means I'm going to have a bad day tomorrow. Yeah, exactly, just for the balance. I've got tremendous OCD. That's what tremendous OCD. And let me just say one thing. And this is not a pity party. This is not, oh, poor Ultra. I'm just saying, as someone who's been through the mill a bit, I think AJ, I'm not saying he's got it as bad as me, but I think he's got it a lot worse than what people think, based on some of the experiences I've got into myself. And I'm just saying, look, OCD, right? I'll tell you about this, right? Let me tell you this. OCD is the worst. People think OCD, oh, he just likes to clean. Oh, he just likes cleaning. Or, oh, he's just a bit OCD. Oh, he's really tidy. That's what people think about OCD, right? They think, that one thing that annoys me, and it annoys my missus, is when people say, I'm going on a cleaning spree. I'm a bit OCD. I'm going to tell you something, right? I shouldn't tell you, but I'm going to tell you this right now. Let me tell you what OCD is right now. This is OCD. OCD is thinking that you've got a problem with your bowels, right? Like what I did, right? OCD is when you think you've got a problem with your bowels. So you keep checking your shit every single day. After you do a shit, you sit there and you check the color of your shit to make sure it's the right color. And if it's not the right color, then you panic because you think there's something going on and you're going to die. That's OCD. That's how fucked up OCD can be. That's OCD. Have you ever stood in a public toilet checking your own shit? In a public toilet, checking the color of it to make sure that it's an acceptable color. Otherwise, you're going to have a mental breakdown and worry that there's going to be a problem. And then you're going to spend the rest of the day calling a million doctors. And no doctor can help you. If a doctor tells you you're probably fine, doesn't work. You get relieved for about 2 minutes. You get relieved for about 2 minutes. And then the same thoughts come back in your head over and over again. And you're back to square one in 5 minutes, thinking the same shit. Do you know how many days I've lost like that? Spent entire fucking days worrying. Entire fucking days not going to work. Again, it's not a pity party, but the OCD thing, like Snazzy said, exactly, there's many different forms of OCD. Contamination OCD. How many of us here have washed our hands till they bleed? I have. You should have seen the state of my hands during COVID. You should have seen the state of my hands during COVID. My hands were ruined during COVID. Ruined. Absolutely ruined. I had red blotches all over my hands. My hands were cracked so much from all the soap. I was washing them that much. I was washing them every 5 minutes. Anything I touched, I was washing my hands or putting hand sanitizer on them. Yeah, that's why I saw your comment, Joe. That's why I commented. It's no joke, man. That OCD, it is no joke. And I'm not saying that Anthony Joshua's got OCD at all, by the way. I'm not saying that. Just. Oh, Ultra, why are you talking about this? You're not a doctor. Well, why don't you just not listen? I don't understand those people. I don't understand why you just don't listen and why you comment me something like that. But it is what it is. I don't know why, but just don't listen, innit? It's like, I'm not hurting anybody. If you don't like my opinion, then go listen to something else. So again, getting back on topic, yeah, it's no joke, but we'll see. We'll see with this guy. We'll see. I think if he gets beat by Usyk, I think we'll start hearing a few stories. That's my prediction on Anthony Joshua. I think this will really become a topic if he gets beaten by Usyk, because I think we'll hear some stories about him. People will start saying, look, he's not. You're already seeing it now, aren't you? Little bits and bobs, aren't they? What are they saying about this fight? What's Carl Froch saying about this fight? Look at a lot of the narrative around this fight. What's the narrative around this fight? they're already focusing on AJ's mental being, isn't it? It's like Carl Froch in his interview. He says the whole fight hinges on AJ's mental state, doesn't it? The whole fight hinges on AJ's mental state. And does he believe he can win? Does he believe he can win? Can he handle the pressure? Can he handle the anxiety? If he can, he can win. But if he can't, he's going to get smashed again. I think if he loses again, I think we're going to hear some stories come out about what's really been going on. I'm expecting that. I'm expecting to hear. If we've already had a few things come out already, I think we're going to hear a lot more come out about what's been going on behind the scenes. And I just think it's going to come out that there's nothing wrong with it at all. There's nothing wrong with it. But I think it's going to come out that Anthony Joshua's had a few demons in it that he's been battling. He's had quite a few demons that has been battling. Look, he says here, I now understand that the good has to come with the bad. It can't be sunshine forever. There'll have to be stormy times as well. I went through a rough patch, but I dealt with it and it taught me a lot. I listen to a lot of talks or podcasts with insight on how to be strong and stay focused and channel my emotions. I am a sponge that absorbs. Every morning and when I get ready for bed, it plays in the background. So subconsciously, I take in the information. Joshua conceded he feels pressure to be a role model to his fans and to live up to the hype around him. As he suggested, he battles with anxiety inside and outside of the ring. It is what it is, isn't it? Okay, we can go soon. If anybody's got any comments, get them in. I'll go through them now and read them out. Paul White says, when you have anxiety, rationalization doesn't work. It does not, no. You know that statistically say a plane won't crash and it's a safer form of transport than a car. That doesn't matter in the moment. Absolutely. Rationalization doesn't work. Period. This microphone's too good. What are you munching, Ultra? I'm so sorry. I shouldn't be eating on them. I'm going to put this away. But my missus did make me one of my favourite things that she cooks, which is prawn risotto. King prawn risotto. I'll put this away. Sorry. It's one of my favourite things that she makes. She makes king prawn risotto. It's very good. Joe says, I think Usyk is very unnerving for AJ. The vid of him dancing with Saudis and AJ is just in the corner looking baffled. Well, we've discussed it a million times, haven't we? This whole look. This whole AJ selfie thing, isn't it? Look. This stuff. Hold on. All this bollocks here, look. See all this bollocks, look. All this bollocks, all this selfie bollocks that he does. And he only does it, I've only ever seen him do it in fights where, let's put it this way. I could be wrong. Was AJ taking selfies like this with Dennis Baktov? Was AJ taking selfies like this with Gary Cornish? Well, was AJ taking selfies like this when he was fighting Matt Legg? Let me know if I'm wrong about that. I could be wrong. It's every time he gets into a 50-50 or a fight where the opponent can be dangerous. So Klitschko, Povetkin, Usyk. To me, like I said, that's not a coincidence. And I'm not saying this to put him down. I'm saying I do the same shit. But I clocked onto that very early on. He doesn't do this stuff when it's other people. as far as I'm aware. When he's, you know, when it's a fight where it's where he really respects the opponent, where he thinks, well, this guy could do something, Povetkin. This guy could, and Povetkin hit him and hurt him early in that fight. You know, this guy's not scared of me. This guy's not as intimidated as me, or do you know what I mean? Or this guy this guy can hurt me. This guy can do something. This guy can school me. His demeanor completely fucking changes, and he starts doing this selfie bollocks. And it goes back to what I said about the whole Wilder thing, doesn't it? He's trying to fucking humanize these guys, isn't it? It's like, because I could be wrong, but I wonder sometimes if he builds them up a little bit too much in his head. Shevin says, AJ tries to either disarm or intimidate his opponents, but when he can't do either, he's in trouble. Yeah, that's what it is. I think that's a good way of saying it, isn't it? And you can see him there. Yeah, exactly, Joe. That's what it is. It's like Joshua thinks, if I be his mate, he might not hurt me type thing. That's the kind of thing that we're starting to get around. But then again, listen, we'll have to give AJ a bit of credit here. I mean, he gave Andy Ruiz his belts. And I think he thought, I don't think he ever thought Andy Ruiz was going to beat him, surely. I mean, this stuff is just bizarre. Who does that? I've never seen that before. Who does that? Who allows his opponent to take his belts and start taking pictures with him? And I think you're right, because I think the same thing. I do the same thing. Joe Wall, it's like Joshua thinks if I be his mate, he might not hurt me type thing. Doesn't he? Maybe sometimes he gets a little bit anxious. And I suffer from the same stuff, but 10 times worse. So again, I'm not trying to put Andy Joshua down. I'm just trying to gain a bit of insight, if that makes sense, right? But that goes through my mind all the time. Well, maybe if I be his mate, you know, when I go into sparring, I'm always nicey and stuff. When I go into sparring, I don't go in with like a killer mindset. You get some people who walk around, you know, trying to mean mug, or you get some people who walk around trying to, you know, not often, but it does happen. I'm the opposite. And I do that because I think, well, if I be his mate and if he sees I'm cool, he's less likely to put the shots in. He's less likely to make it uncomfortable. And I wonder sometimes if AJ gets a little bit less confident and he does that. Because this is bizarre. No, that's bizarre, isn't it? Like in any stretch of the imagination in boxing, I've never seen I could be wrong, but I can't remember a time I've ever seen a unified heavyweight champion who is a heavy favourite against a guy who's taken a fight at 3 weeks' notice or 4 weeks' notice, hand over his fucking belts to the guy on stage and say, here you go, you can pose on camera with my titles as if you're the fucking champion. Give me a sec. I'm going to move this risotto because I keep saying I'm not going to eat it and then I keep eating it. One sec. Sorry. I keep saying I'm not going to eat this risotto and then I keep eating it. I'll get you a picture. I'll put a picture of it on Twitter. Do you follow me on Twitter? Occasionally we do put pics of Mrs. Ultra's cooking on here. We do put pics of Mrs. Ultra's cooking on here. There's my resume. So if anybody wants to know what my resume is, Ultra Tech, you can't talk about boxing. What's your resume? There's my resume. Every time I go to the gym, boxing gym, that's what I bring with me. They don't let you in the boxing gym unless you've got resume, because it's all about resumes, isn't it? It's all about resumes. Let's see. If some people are interested in it, there's the ice cream that we eat at the minute. There you go. Talk about that another time. I'm trying to get. There you go. That's so we do put it on. That's Mrs. Ultra's did me a fried breakfast a couple of weeks ago on the fly. I said, you know what? Would you? Because there's no point in me cooking because I'm not as good. It's not because
I'm a chauvinist and anything like that. It's just because there's no point in me cooking because I'm not as good. It's pointless for both of us. The better cook might as well cook, innit? So I said, oi. I said, you make me a fried breakfast? Yeah, okay. Bosh. Bosh. We're going on about AJ, but isn't Usyk going through more with everything? Yeah, he is, but what I'm saying is, I don't think Usyk doubts himself in the same way that Anthony Joshua does. That's the point. I could be wrong. I know Usyk's going through a lot more than Anthony Joshua. We know that and stuff, but I'm not sure Usyk's doubting himself. Do you know what? I could be wrong on this, right? But this whole war situation in Ukraine, right? That could make even Usyk even more self-confident, to be honest, because what you've been he hasn't been on the front line per se, right? But Usyk's been in a situation where he's made friends with people that have gone to the front line, and the next day they haven't come back. Right? He's been friends with people who have gone to the front line, and the next day they have not come back. The Russians have tried to break into his house. You don't want the Russian army getting hold of your wife. That's all I'm going to tell you. Talk about stress. I'd rather my wife was 6 feet under in a coffin than in the possession of the Russian army. Straight up. If I had to pick between the two. Coffin or Russian army? I'm choosing coffin. They're breaking into his house. I think for Usyk, if anything, it might increase his self-belief because it enables him to gain perspective. Because he can say, look, what is this? This is just a fight. This don't mean nothing. This is just a boxing fight. People out there are getting shot to pieces right now. All I'm doing is fighting for a frigging world title. What's the stress? What's the pressure? Then there could be the reverse. There could be the reverse. He could be thinking, well, I've got a whole country on my shoulders. I need to perform in order to make Ukraine proud of me. Maybe I need to perform and beat Anthony Joshua in order to raise awareness about the war in Ukraine. It could go both ways. But it wouldn't surprise me. I could be wrong, but it wouldn't surprise me, if anything, if it actually made him a little bit more hardened. And he looked pretty fucking serious at that weigh-in. I don't know what you guys think. For that face-off. He looked pretty hardened at that face-off. To me. I don't know how you guys feel about it. But he looked pretty hardened. Like, it was what it was, wasn't it? We'll see. We will see what happens. We will see. So, look, in closing, I've made a complete mess of this episode because it's very, very hard for me to talk about. It's easy and it's hard at the same time. So I kind of like want to talk about Anthony Joshua, but I want to talk about me so people understand I'm not just putting Anthony Joshua down. I'm talking about it from some personal experience, and that I have fears as well, but then I don't want to talk about myself too much and make it pity pie. So I'm kind of doing sort of mental circles as we go through Anthony Joshua's team. I've said it before and I'll say it again one more time. I honestly don't think that some of the people in this team help. I've said it before a million times. I don't think some of the comments that Eddie Hearn makes before fights are helpful. You know, in the run up to the rematch, he was saying things like, well, AJ's got to win or it could be retirement. Why would he ever think about retiring, getting beat by one man twice? He's a young man. He's achieved a lot in the sport. He's got more to achieve in the sport. If it was anybody else, you would think that's so stupid. Wouldn't you? If it was anybody else, you would think that's so stupid. A guy who's turned his life around and become unified champion of the world, and just because he can't beat one guy, which is so constant in boxing, there's always someone who's got your number, right? Just because of that, he should retire if he gets beat. You know, I think the things that Eddie Hearn says in the run up to these AJ fights isn't very helpful. But I think, to be honest, I do think AJ knows that. And I don't know what you guys think, but AJ and Eddie, do you think they're as strong as what they have been before, AJ and Eddie? I'm not sure they are. I don't think AJ and Eddie. The impression I get is that AJ and Eddie aren't as strong as what they were when he was knocking out all those cans on Sky Sports, when he was fighting Baktov and fucking and those Brazilian guys. Not a chance, is it? Not. You see Anthony Joshua in interviews, and he does try to keep a bit of a draw a line in it. Where he goes, "What did Eddie say that?" Well, Eddie says a lot. Or Eddie doesn't know what's going on. If you want to know something, you talk to me. Or he kind of says those kind of things, doesn't he? Like, I think he respects Eddie from a business perspective. I think he respects Eddie as a businessman. I think he respects Matchroom as a business, and I think he tries to, he does want to sort of maintain a certain degree of loyalty, to Matchroom because they're the one who brought him through. But I don't think AJ and Eddie are as strong as what they used to be. To be honest, it doesn't look like it to me. And I think a lot of the reason for that is because AJ's clocked onto some of his stuff, isn't it? AJ's clocked onto some of Eddie's little tricks. I thought Eddie turning around and saying what he said about Anthony Joshua might need to retire if he gets beat by Andy Ruiz. I think that's a pretty disgusting thing to say. And if I was Anthony Joshua, I'd be immediately on the phone to him. And the first thing I would ask him are, have you been misquoted, or is that correct? And if Eddie said to me, no, I said that, I would say, the next time you say that, you'll never promote another one of my fights again. That's what I would say to him. He suggested I should retire. Sorry about that. One sec. I'm just trying to get the... people will doubt me and say I'm making it up, so I'm just trying to get the proof up on the screen. He's doing it again. Look, hold on. I'll get to your questions in a sec. One sec. But we'll see, yeah. But I'm pretty sure Eddie Hearn did that, and he said some stuff, didn't he? Let me go through some of your comments. Yeah, you're agreeing with me. The relationship's not as strong, is it? It's not as strong. Obviously, you had the father blaming Eddie Hearn. I don't know what the father was blaming Eddie Hearn for. The father was blaming Eddie Hearn afterwards. Screaming at him, trying to get at him, didn't he, after the fight? What was all that about? We never got to the bottom of that, did we? He had to hold him back. Look, let's play this right now. Look at this. Let's see if we can get this. I mean, the father went right for him. If you look at him, look, he's telling him, look, he's trying to get to him. Wait, I thought, well, Eddie can't do much, but he's absolutely fuming. Do you see that? Look, you can see Anthony Joshua said, I'm the one who's fighting. I'm the one who's fighting. His father wanted to get at him. This isn't even the full video. If you see it, he's actually tried to get at him, at Eddie Hearn. And the people actually, I'm pretty sure people had to jump in and stop him. But then again, in Eddie Hearn's defense, Anthony Joshua's dad has a drink, didn't he, before these fights? I mean, Anthony Joshua's dad isn't afraid of having a drink or two. So who knows what state he was in. Look, I don't know. It was what it was, wasn't it? We never got to the bottom of that. There's definitely something going on. M.A. Khan agrees that, no, they don't look like pals anymore. It's just business. Too much pressure, didn't he? Too much pressure. Too much pressure. When your promoter's putting pressure on you, sometimes promoters need to realise that they aren't the ones going in the ring. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes these promoters, and all promoters, they need to realise they're not the ones getting in the ring. Sometimes these promoters, they often talk like they're the one getting in the ring. And they start vicariously living through these fighters, don't they? And they start talking as if they're the tough guys. You can kind of see that a bit of Eddie, can't you? He's had a few fighters. Now all of a sudden he was an amateur boxer. Nobody's seen any of his fights. Nobody has any footage of this man having one amateur fight. I think that is bizarre. That somebody that Barry Hearn's son had 3 amateur fights, and Barry Hearn didn't think, do you know what? I'm gonna record a video of my. What do you guys think about that? I mean, I know back in those days we didn't have smartphones and stuff, but that sounds very odd to me. That Eddie Hearn had 4 or 5 amateur fights, son of Barry Hearn, And Barry Hearn never turned up to watch his son fight in the amateurs and never thought, you know what, I'm going to take some kind of picture, or I'm going to take some kind of video of my son fighting it's just as a memory or something. It's a pretty big deal, isn't it? It's not something that happens every day, right? Your son boxes for Billy Craig Boxing Club in the amateurs, right? And somehow Barry Hearn, multi-millionaire Barry Hearn, decided that he wasn't going to take a single picture or a video of his son boxing. As someone who's been around boxing gyms for the last 10 years, do you know how odd that is? Given the fact that boxing gyms these days are full of morons who film themselves doing everything. Film themselves on the pad, film themselves. I see it all the time in gyms. People filming them, even if they're not boxing training. People filming themselves lifting weights, doing all sorts. People filming themselves. Put the phone on a tripod, set it to record, film themselves. People film themselves doing it. But Barry Hearn's son, had 4 or 5 amateur fights for Billy Craig Boxing Club. And somehow Barry doesn't have one picture or one video. Very odd, isn't it? That's what I find odd about that. It's very strange, isn't it? 4 in the amateurs, did he? Not one film, or I've never seen a single piece of film or a photo. All right. Maybe, no. Jeez, my wife's coming with a pot of more risotto. I haven't even finished this one yet. She coming in with a pot of more risotto. We asked Daryl's question. AJ's dad blamed Eddie for the release fight. Yeah, we know that. Daryl, why does Ed and Eddie constantly fall out with his fighters, in your opinion? Well, look. I don't think that's something that's unique to Eddie. Because Frank's fallen out with a whole ton of his fighters as well. So I don't think it's something that, we can talk about Eddie, but we have to remember, promoters fall out with fighters, don't they? It's not something that's just exclusive to Eddie Hearn. But I tell you one thing, Daryl, that I'll quickly, that if you guys don't mind me talking about, press 1 if you're okay with me. We're still talking about Anthony Joshua anxiety, but I just want to quickly say something. It's about Okolie. I know who you are, by the way, I know you've been on this channel before because you keep trying to change topic to something different every single time. So I know I've got a pretty good idea who you are. But anyway, I'll let you hang around for a bit. But I know you're going to slip up eventually. But let me get on to Okolie. Quickly, just want to say, I heard yesterday that Okolie made comments about Eddie Hearn being a slave owner. But I've been. It's all good. Don't worry. I have to apologise. It's all good. What on earth is this? The mayor, the Okolie, the sleep master. Let's go to everything boxing. Look, this is one of the worst accounts on Twitter, but this guy's an actual boxer. So it is what it is. This guy is a legit boxing. He's a legit boxer. He fucking fought Kevin Mitchell's son. This guy fought Kevin Mitchell's son in the amateurs. So this guy's legit. He's a legit boxer. He's had quite a few fights. Fair play to him. I think he tweets nonsense, but listen, he's had more fights than me, so I've got to respect him. What is this? Okolie's been sending tweets saying, comparing Eddie Hearn to a slave owner. Well, where are the tweets at? Where are the tweets? I want to see the tweets. Let's have a look. Because what's going on with it, right? Okolie wants to go to Sky, doesn't he? Am I reading this rightly? Okolie wants to go to Sky. He doesn't want to stay at Matchroom, right? But obviously Matchroom have told him, you can't go because you've got to fight with us. Now, obviously, this is hilarious because do you remember back in the day when Matchroom came on the scene and Frank Warren had contracts with everybody? Do you remember this? When Frank Warren left Sky, but Frank still had contracts with everybody. And it was Eddie Hearn who was encouraging fighters to leave their contract with Frank. Do you remember Ricky Burns got made bankrupt over that? When Ricky Burns had a contract, as far as I'm aware, with Frank Warren. And somebody, cough, cough, encouraged him to then go and sign an agreement with Eddie Hearn, a Matchroom, when he had an agreement with Frank, and it ended up going to court. Do you remember that? So, do you not see the irony in that situation? That 15 years ago, it was Matchroom who were kind of trying to grab fighters who were under contract with another promotion. And it was Frank Warren at the time who was criticised for trying to hold on to those guys. You know, Frank Warren was criticised to taking Ricky Burns to court because Ricky Burns basically, as far as I'm aware, and I could be wrong about this, if I'm wrong, I apologise. But as far as I'm aware, and I think the judge may have agreed, right, Ricky Burns was under contract with Frank Warren. But people criticised Frank for trying to get Ricky Burns to fulfil his agreement. But I'm sure there was more to it on that. I'm not saying Frank didn't do anything wrong, right? But I'm saying, as far as I'm aware, Frank was right. Ricky Burns was under contract, and he signed an agreement. Or he tried to go to somebody else while he was under contract, and people criticised Frank Warren for that. And I'm just saying, isn't it funny how the cookie crumbles? Do you not think 20 years later, now it's Ben Shalom who's trying to steal fighters from under the nose of Eddie Hearn, and then it's Eddie Hearn who's the one who's sending legal letters. And Okolie doesn't want to stay, does he? He doesn't want to stay. Doesn't want to be on Matchroom. Okolie doesn't want to be on Matchroom. Doesn't want to be promoted by Eddie Hearn, and he doesn't want to be on DAZN. That's what the gist of it is, isn't it? Daryl says he called Hearn a slave owner because Sky made him an offer to be the. Can I tell you something that's quite funny? Eddie Hearn has always maintained, right, that Matchroom. And by the way, we will get back to AJ, but we were talking about AJ and anxiety, and we've done that for the first hour. Hold on. Let me just change the title of the stream quickly. One sec. So people don't accuse me of clickbaiting. There we go. Done. There you go. So I've changed the title of the stream now, yeah? So there we go. So we can talk about this officially now. Exactly, Daryl. Hearn always used to say that fighters could leave him if they didn't want to be there. Now look, he's doing the opposite. That is exactly correct. That is exactly correct. Eddie Hearn has always said Matchroom is the best place to be. But if somebody don't want to be on Matchroom, then they don't have to be on Matchroom. I'm not going to force them to be on Matchroom because I believe that Matchroom is the best place to be. And anybody in their right mind will want to be with Matchroom. That's what Eddie said. Well, it turns out, yet again, that what Eddie said is a bunch of bollocks. Who would ever have guessed that? It turns out that what Eddie's saying is actually bollocks. And he's trying to fight. And listen, Lawrence Okolie should fight on Matchroom. He signed a contract, right? He should fulfill his agreement. I haven't got a problem with what Eddie Hearn's doing, right? All I'm doing is pointing out the inconsistencies in what Eddie Hearn's saying. He said he would never force a fighter to be on Matchroom. He's forcing Lawrence Okolie to fight on Matchroom. Lawrence Okolie, by all accounts, doesn't want to fight on Matchroom anymore. Lawrence Okolie doesn't want to fight on the DAZN app. Doesn't want to be on it. Lawrence Okolie wants to go and fight on Sky Sports and be promoted by Alan Shalom and fight on Boxer. And Lawrence Okolie wants to fight on Sky Box Office. Lawrence Okolie does not want to defend his world title on DAZN pay-per-view with the likes of KSI versus Alex Wasabi. Simple as that. Lawrence Okolie doesn't want to end up like Billy Joe Saunders, undercarding to fucking YouTubers. So all I'm saying is my official position is the following. Lawrence Okolie signed the contract. Lawrence Okolie should honour his contract. Having said that, Eddie Hearn has always said he would never force a fighter to stay at Matchroom. Well, if what's being reported out in the media is true, he's lying. He's forcing a fighter to stay at Matchroom. And that's why Lawrence Okolie is calling him a slave owner. Simple. That's why Okolie is calling him a slave owner. Because Okolie is saying, I don't want to fight for you anymore. Let me go. And Hearn's saying, no, you will fight for me. I'm going to force you to fight on this platform. Thus, Okolie, wrongly or rightly, is calling him a slave owner. It's such a bizarre situation, isn't it? It's funny, isn't it? What goes around comes around. In general, right? Look, life is cyclical. All things are cyclical. What goes up must come down. Isn't it? Everything in life is unavoidable. What goes up must come down. Nobody can be the top dog forever. Nobody can be the top dog forever. What goes up must come down. And maybe we're just going through a period where Eddie Hearn's beginning to come down a bit, because all the things that he said he wouldn't do, like I would never force a fighter to be on Matchroom, when he went to the DAZN, pay-per-view's finished. Do you remember that? Do you remember when Eddie Hearn said that? No, we're not going to do pay-per-view. Pay-per-view's finished. When he went to America, right? And the first thing he did when he went over to America was he criticised pay-per-view. There you go. Eddie Hearn. Pay-per-view is dead unless you're Floyd or McGregor. Meanwhile, on DAZN, they're showing KSI versus Alex Wasabi on pay-per-view. That's what we've got to with DAZN. Pay-per-view is dead unless you're Floyd or McGregor. We've gone from that to KSI versus Alex Wasabi on pay-per-view. I mean, to be fair, Eddie Hearn's not promoting that fight, but still. Look at this, look. Eddie Hearn. Pay-per-view is insane. That's what he said. I'm going to play it. Eddie Hearn's quote. Pay-per-view is insane. Eddie Hearn. Why pay-per-view is dead and how DAZN changed boxing. This is the guy 3 years ago. How do we get from pay-per-view is dead to KSI versus Alex Wasabi on DAZN pay-per-view? That's all I'm saying, yeah? What goes up must come down. Same for me. How do you think I will go out the same way? Something bad will happen to me, or I'll say something I shouldn't have said, or somebody will beat me up, or some other YouTuber will come and destroy me or something, and then people won't want to watch the show anymore. What comes up must go. That's life. And I think that maybe Eddie Hearn needs to accept that he had a good run, and maybe his good run's coming to an end. Press 1 if you agree with me, press 2 if you disagree. Maybe it's just Eddie Hearn's time. Listen, Eddie Hearn has had a good run, right? Matchroom was already a very, very successful business before Eddie Hearn came into it. I'm not saying Eddie Hearn didn't take it to another level. I'm not saying that. But Matchroom was already a top-class business. In darts, you know, you look what Barry Hearn did with the PDC darts. They were on fire. I keep telling people, darts was the second biggest draw on Sky Sports. The only thing during the prime of PDC darts, which was run by Matchroom, yeah? People don't understand how big darts was. During the prime of darts, the only thing that was being watched more on Sky Sports than darts was Premier League football. That was the only thing that was getting bigger viewership than darts when darts was in its prime. Premier League football. Darts was massive on Sky Sports. Thus, you had the Premier League every other week. And look at how that's expanded. And look how the prize money has expanded. Matchroom was always more than boxing. Matchroom was never just boxing. And Matchroom was successful before Eddie Hearn came along. But he came into his father's business and he did a fantastic job, didn't he? He did a fantastic job. But he had a ready-made business there for him, didn't he? He wasn't like, look, this is shit or bust. If I fuck this up, we're fucked. Do you know what I mean? Matchroom were established. And then he joined Sky. Frank Warren walked out of Sky and he came in and he joined Sky. And Sky was the biggest platform at the time. And there was no Netflix. There was no Amazon Prime. There was no BT Sport. Nobody was streaming, people were still watching TV. People don't understand. When Eddie Hearn joined Sky and Frank Warren left Sky to start Box Nation, right? 10 million people were still tuning in every week to watch EastEnders. That's how far away it was. That's how much things have changed. Like 10 million people were still watching EastEnders every week and Coronation Street. I'm talking about people were still watching TV when fucking Eddie Hearn was, doing fights with Sky. People weren't really watching on demand. People were still like, now the way people watch things is completely changed. The products that are available has completely changed. Eddie Hearn had, in my opinion, came along, and like I said, circumstances just added up for. I mean, he did some great things as well, right? It's not just all luck, right? Eddie Hearn had a lot to do with it himself, but there was a set of circumstances that allowed him to be so proficient, wasn't there? Frank Warren decided to leave Sky and start Box Nation. Sky said they were getting out of boxing. Sky then did a U-turn and went back into boxing. Sky had all of the Premiership football. There was no BT Sport, no Amazon, no Netflix. Hardly anybody was streaming. And people were still 10, 15 million people were still watching EastEnders. And there was hardly any competition. And under those circumstances, yes, he prevailed. But I always said, right, the DAZN thing was going to be interesting to me because it was going to be interesting to me to see, because that was one of the few times where, he had a shitload of money, right, didn't he, at DAZN, right? He had a huge budget at DAZN, right? A huge budget. But I said DAZN would always be the making of him. In my mind, DAZN would always be, how much of it is Sky and how much of it is Eddie Hearn? And I thought, DAZN is where we're going to find out, aren't we? Because he's got this massive budget. He's got a shit ton of money. He thinks all he's got to do is go out and wave all these paychecks at all these fighters like Gervontas and Charlos and all this stuff. Do you remember when he said there were no fights for Charlo? Does anybody remember that? Another thing he said. And he turned up in America and he said there's no more fights for Gisalo. There's no more fights for Charlo. Charlo must come to DAZN. Do you remember that when he was going on to turn up in America and saying there's no more fights for Charlo? What do you guys think about that? How's Charlo doing? Is he doing all right? Showtime are out of business. Oh, are they out of business or not? Remember that when he went Showtime? Well, yeah, look, Showtime will follow HBO out of business within 12 months. Well, that's 4 years ago. So that's all I'm saying, isn't it? I just felt, for me personally, you guys have asked me about Eddie Hearn, and I've just answered the question. I've answered the question about him. I think he's done. Look, I think he's very, very talented at self-promotion, isn't he? He's very, very talented at self-promotion. I'm not going to dispute that. Very, very talented at self-promotion. But just think, like I said before, there was a bit of a perfect storm, really, wasn't there? And so, yeah, people have asked the question. I think Darryl asked the question. Why does he fall out with fighters? Look, I think at the minute, like I said before, the problem is mainly the platform. Eddie Hearn might not even be the problem. The problem might be the platform, isn't it? Lawrence Okolie just doesn't want to fight on DAZN. He doesn't think there's any point in fighting on DAZN. As far as I'm aware, and somebody can let me know if I'm wrong, do DAZN in the UK I'm talking about right now, I don't care about America. I don't think DAZN have any sort of major sport in the UK right now. Am I right or am I wrong about that? As far as I'm aware, the only real major sport that DAZN carry at the minute is the Women's Champions League. in the UK? Let me know. I think they've got the rights to the Women's Champions League. The Women's Champions League. As far as I'm aware, BT have the rights to, and Amazon will be doing Champions League football from 2024. As far as I'm aware. So the Champions League, yeah, there you go. BT and Amazon. It's and BBC, but mainly it's on BT Sport. So what will happen is, from 2024 in the Champions League, will be shown on most of the games. 90% of the games will be shown on BT. A couple of the games will be shown on Amazon, which they have to be shown. Nobody can now. They changed the rules, so nobody can exclusively have the rights to the Champions League anymore. So BT haven't lost any rights per se, right? BT are not allowed to have exclusive rights. One platform now cannot have exclusive rights to the Champions League because they want to increase viewership. So somebody else has to have the rights. So Amazon will show a Tuesday night game. Amazon will show a couple of Tuesday night games. BT get all the rest of the games, and BBC will show highlights. And that's happening from 2024 to 2027. So as far as I'm aware, for the next 5 years, Champions League football will mainly be on BT Sport. So this is the kind of reason why Lawrence Okolie wants to get away from Matchroom. I'm not sure it's about Matchroom as a business or Eddie Hearn per se. I think he wants to get away because of the platform. What do you guys think? Do you think I'm right or am I wrong? I think I'm being fair to Eddie Hearn there. I'm not saying it's because Eddie's a bastard. Am I? I'm saying, look, Lawrence Okolie wants to leave. Well, I think Lawrence Okolie doesn't want to leave because of Eddie Hearn. I think Lawrence Okolie wants to leave because he wants to be on Sky. And that's why people were signing for Matchroom before. They were signing for Matchroom because they wanted to be on Sky. Period. Simple as that. Eddie Hearn got a little bit confused, didn't he? That's what I think. I think he started thinking that people wanted to sign with Matchroom on the strength of him. I think people wanted to sign for Matchroom because Matchroom was the only way you could get on Sky box office. And ultimately, fighters want to fight on Sky box office. Lawrence Okolie is a world champion. He wants to fight on box office. That's it. Sky Sports have probably told Okolie, look, you can go up to heavyweight as the cruiserweight champion and fight this guy and fight that guy. We can do all these kind of fights with you. And we can do them on Sky box office. I don't think Okolie is interested in joining Alex Wasabi and KSI on the DAZN pay-per-view. Gaffer says, deep down, and he'll never admit it, but he will be regretting leaving Sky. It was a big mistake, in my opinion. It was a big mistake, but it was what it was. I mean, we'll see. Listen, if DAZN go and get the Champions League football rights, or if DAZN go and get Premier League rights, it's a different conversation, right? Different conversation. These things can turn around very, very quickly. But so far, I don't think there's any question it's looking like a mistake. Do you think that's a fair comment from me if I say that so far Eddie Hearn's involvement with DAZN is looking like a mistake? Do you think, in terms of financially, I'm sure he's doing very well out of it, right? Financially, he's doing great, isn't he? Because he's got all these massive budgets, right? He's got this massive budget at DAZN. And fighters like Jesse Vargas were getting paid $1 million to fight on undercards, and he was getting part of that, right? I assume he was getting part of that. So financially, he's probably done very, very well out of DAZN. I mean, I don't know. I don't really care about ticket sales and all this kind of shit. Ticket sales and all this ticket sales and who sells what and who's a fucking draw. I don't really give a shit about that kind of stuff. But I'm just going to make a guess here. If you look at what some of these fighters on DAZN were getting paid, right? Fighters on DAZN were getting paid astronomical purses. Am I right in thinking Eddie Hearn was getting a cut out of those purses? So when guys like Jesse Vargas were getting $1 million to fight on undercards, when he was paying Tevin Farmer fucking $500,000 a time for these title defenses, am I right in thinking he was getting a cut of that money? Am I right in thinking that? Yes or no? Because if the answer is yes, then he's potentially done very well. Cough, cough, cough. Cough, cough, cough. he's potentially done very well financially for himself. If he's getting a cut of some of these outrageous purses that DAZN have been paying people. Because they've been paying people some serious wad. Serious wad. But in terms of his influence in boxing, no, I think it's been a big mistake. That's my opinion. In terms of his influence in boxing, I think it's a big mistake. But I always said it was Sky. Look, whoever you put with Sky, if you put Frank Warren with Sky tomorrow, Sky will probably be number one. He'd be number one in no time. If you put Frank Warren on Sky and you've got Daniel Dubois world title fight on pay-per-view, you've got Anthony Yard Beterbiev in London on pay-per-view, Tyson Fury on pay-per-view on Sky box office. Do you know how well these fights will do? When you've got the whole Sky machine backing them, you've got Sky Sports News bashing it out 24/7. Sky Sports News bashing out that promotion 24/7. Can you imagine that? Dubois world title fight on Sky pay-per-view. Tyson Fury world title fight on Sky Sports box office at home. Can you imagine Tyson Fury and Dillian White on Sky Sports box office? The two of them appearing on Soccer AM and all the crossover shows. You're watching Premier League football, and right in the middle of watching Premier League football, you get the advertisement for Fury. And Sky are just different. So my opinion's always been that Sky is the draw. That's been my opinion, and that whoever's with Sky is pretty much in the driver's seat as it stands. But Eddie made a gamble, didn't he? You know, we all say apps of the future and stuff like that, and we're all right, apps of the future and stuff like that, and I understand that. But is DAZN the app of the future? That's the question. Yeah, we all know apps of the future, but is DAZN the app of the future? That's the question, isn't it? I don't know. Sorry for rambling on. I really apologise. I've been rambling on for an hour and a half, but I don't know. I woke up this morning. I didn't feel too good this morning. I felt a little bit down, so I thought I'd have a bit of a chat. James McKenzie says, "Who give a fuck? He was all right taking bundles of cash and chuckling like a lord. Now he gets slapped about by someone. Now he's anxious. Fuck that. Live by the sword, die by the sword." Oh, you know what, Anthony Joshua? Nah, we don't roll with that on here, bro. You're entitled to your opinion, but that's fine. Cash for Cat says, "I think the Hearns have done really well." Oh, I'm sure they are. Haven't they? I'm sure they have done really well. I'm not questioning that, by the way. At all. I'm sure financially they do very, very well. I'm sure they do very, very well. Oh my God, we've got Chisora today, haven't we, versus Pulev. Fuck, I might be back for that later on. Chisora versus Pulev. Fuck, I completely forgot about that. Let's quickly finish off on some stuff and then we'll go. So yeah, I mean, the Okolie thing. Listen, let me tell you, right, I'll be honest with you. I think Lawrence Okolie is out of order to then again, Barry Hearn called himself a fucking slave owner himself. See, I was about to say that, look, Lawrence Okolie, if he's called Eddie Hearn a slave owner, yeah, is out of order for sort of racializing it. Right? Because, you know what I mean? There are always racial connotations when a person of colour accuses somebody of behaving like a slave owner. There's always sort of racial connotations and racial undertones to that. And I am obviously a person of colour, right? So, I think Lawrence Okolie, to a degree, is wrong to do that. You know, you're under contract. You should honour your contract. It's no good turning around and... The choice of language from Okolie, a plantation owner or a slave owner, he's chosen to sort of racialise it. And I think that's wrong. But then again, what's the flip side of that? You've got this muppet Barry Hearn sitting next to a Jamaican immigrant saying he used to be a fucking slave trader. That's the problem with these Hearns. They just talk too much. That's the problem with these Hearns. They talk too much. Need to take a leaf out of Al Heyman's book. Stop trying to be the centre of attention all the time. Promote the fighters and not yourself. And stay in the background. But they don't do it. They always have to be front and centre. And when they always front and center, they always end up saying dumb shit that comes back to haunt them. See, I was about to criticize Lawrence Okolie for saying what he said about Eddie Hearn. To say, Lawrence, why are you racializing what Eddie Hearn's saying by accusing him of being a plantation owner? Why are you bringing race into it? Why are you trying to racialize this? This isn't a matter of race. This is a matter of you adhering to a contract that you signed. And then I can't even do that because 2 seconds later, I've got Bazza here next to a Jamaican immigrant, Diddy and Hearn. And Bazza's turning around and saying, yeah, we used to be slave traders. And he's laughing about it. Good old Baz. Tell you what, with these Hearns, these jokes just write themselves, don't they? Oh, Yo King says, will Lawrence improve his performance if he gets the move he wants? Probably not, but it probably might increase his bank balance because, I don't know. The weird thing is this, look, can I tell you something? All this stuff about fighters, fighters that are moving at the minute, they're going from DAZN to Sky. Yeah, we've got fighters that are leaving Eddie Hearn to go and sign with Sky. We've got Olympians that match him. Apparently had first dibs, didn't they, over all the Olympians, and most of them decided to go with Sky. I mean, all it says to me is that the platform just isn't doing what it should be doing. Because Okolie must know the viewership, right? Okolie. What do you think? Press 1 if you agree, press 2 if you disagree. Okolie's fought on DAZN a number of times. He must know what the numbers are. Look, the fact that they won't tell you what the subscriber numbers are tells you straight away there's a problem. Am I being fair with that or not? I'm just being honest. Like the fact that they can't tell you what the subscriber numbers are kind of tells you there's a problem. Again, it's just things coming around to bite Eddie Hearn in the backside. Eddie Hearn had no problem telling people about Frank Warren's accounts, didn't he? Or he had no problems telling people how many subscribers watched Box Nation. Am I right or am I wrong about that? It's funny how things just, Eddie Hearn had no problem coming on IFL TV and telling people all about how much money Frank Warren had in his bank account, or how much money Queensberry had in their bank account, and how much debt they owed, and go to company's house and look at this and look at that, and nobody's watching Box Nation. But Eddie Hearn had no problem telling people or giving out estimates on how many subscribers Box Nation had. But now all of a sudden, he's been around with DAZN for how many years now? He's been involved with DAZN for 4 years. I've never heard him answer a very, very simple question. How many subscribers do you actually fucking have? How many people? And all I'm saying is this, right? Maybe Lawrence Okolie is privy to those numbers. And maybe Okolie's just saying, look, it is what it is. So again, I'm not blaming Eddie Hearn at all for Okolie. I think I'm just guessing and saying maybe it's the platform. Okolie's looked at it. Maybe he's seen the numbers. Or maybe he's seen the amount of engagement, and he's just said, look, maybe I can do better at Sky. Crazy D3 says DAZN has 11 million subscribers worldwide. Okay. I mean, I think like if you were Lawrence Okolie, you'd probably be a bit more interested in how many they've got in the UK, wouldn't you? I could be wrong on that, but I'm not a boxing businessman, but I would expect you want to know UK, because we know they've got in countries like Italy, they have like good rights in Italy. They've got like the Serie A rights in Italy. I think they've got good rights in Spain and Germany and Japan. So I think they're countries where they have good rights. So I can believe worldwide, yeah, they've got quite a few subs, but I don't know. I think there's a reason, isn't there? I think there's a reason, isn't there? Okolie's looked at it, and I think he's made a decision, hasn't he? Because 11 million out of 7 billion. Well, look, I don't want to get too deep into I don't want to get too because I don't want to get too deep into the pocket watching, right? And accounting numbers and this and that. All I'm saying is, if the Zone UK was doing very, very well for subscribers, and Okolie was getting a lot of traction, and Okolie was getting a lot of engagement, and we all know the Zone have got money, why would he want to leave? Why would he be so desperate to get out before his contract's even over? I don't know. To me, that tells me that maybe the issue is the platform. That's all I'm saying. More so than Eddie Hearn. So maybe the issue is not Eddie Hearn. Maybe it's just the platform. Whatever it is, Lawrence Okolie wants out. That's what we've been hearing, right? Whatever the situation, Lawrence Okolie wants out, and he wants out now. He doesn't want to be on there anymore. So whatever it is they've got on DAZN or they've got on Matchroom, as it stands from what we've been hearing, Lawrence Okolie doesn't want any part of it. He does not want any part of it. And he's a world champion. So for me, that's a pretty big indictment there on that. That's a pretty big indictment. Oh, one other thing we haven't talked about that we'll talk about very quickly, talking about big indictments, right? Is also this. I mean, we talked about, you know, like I said, I'm not even bashing the Zone. Like I said, I just want to make it clear. Somebody asked me about Okolie leaving Eddie Hearn, and I'm saying I don't think it's Eddie Hearn. It's probably to do with the fact that Lawrence Okolie wants to be on another platform. DAZN announced that they've recently done a lifetime. Is it a lifetime deal or some kind of deal with Anthony Joshua? You know what I'm going to get at here. This is bizarre. Anthony Joshua signed an exclusive deal, apparently, with DAZN. AJ's DAZN is the home of Anthony Joshua. Big press release. Here we go. DAZN and Anthony Joshua announced a groundbreaking deal. And you know what's coming. The two-time heavyweight champion of the world has inked a deal with DAZN. DAZN is the global home of boxing. To be fair, Yoking, they might not have said lifetime deal. I might have got that mixed up. Look at this. Do you not think this is dodgy? I mean, this is very dodgy wording, isn't it? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Eddie Hearn wrote this himself, because this is very misleading, isn't it? DAZN has confirmed a groundbreaking deal that will see Joshua's future fights broadcast on DAZN's sport entertainment platform to customers worldwide. It's pretty misleading, isn't it? Because it gives the impression that all of Anthony Joshua's future fights will be shown exclusively on DAZN, doesn't it? When I read this broadcast, we read it with Riku. Riku came on the show and we read this out. Press 1 if you agree with me, press 2 if you disagree with me. When you read this press release, or when you saw the news about Anthony Joshua's groundbreaking £100 million deal with DAZN, did it give you the impression, press 1 if it gave you the impression that all of Anthony Joshua's future fights would be exclusively on DAZN? That's the impression that it gave me. Especially as they chose to release that news just before he fought Alexander Usyk. And then it turns out that the fight's going to be shown on Sky Sports box office by all accounts. Listen, I find that bizarre. You? I don't know how that makes DAZN look competent as a business in any kind of way. But I could be wrong. Maybe there's some kind of grandmaster plan that I'm missing out on. From the minute the story came out that DAZN might not actually be guaranteed the rights to this fight, I did a little looking online, and people were saying things like, "No, that can't." People online were saying things like, "No, that can't be right. DAZN would never agree to do a deal with Anthony Joshua, but allow the Usyk fight to be on another platform. Trust me, there's something going on, but DAZN have got this in hand. There's no way DAZN aren't going to get this fight." I mean, Adam Smith himself, didn't he? Said to IFL TV, didn't he? Adam Smith. Do you remember like last week? Adam Smith came and said, this fight's not going to be shown on Sky. I'm going on holiday. Didn't he say something like that? He said, this fight's not going to be shown on Sky. I'd be amazed if it didn't end up on DAZN. Like, nobody could fucking believe that this could happen. But it's happened. I don't know how that, I don't know. I'm not a business owner, but I just don't know how that makes a business look competent. To me, again, it's just confusing. Well, whenever you give messages to customers, right, whether it's about software, listen, I'm not a business owner, but I know a thing or two about working on projects, right? I know a thing or two about working on projects and delivering, right, to a certain time and date, right? And clear communication to the customer or clear communications to stakeholders is like pretty fucking key thing. And there's people right now who are doing entire courses in project management. And what does project management revolve around? Project management revolves around clarity of requirements, doesn't it? Making sure that the requirements are clear, making sure that they're clear to the people who are going to be implementing the requirements, and making sure that they're clear to the stakeholders. Clarity, right? A lot of project management is about clarity, clarifying requirements, refining requirements, having meetings to sit down and making sure everybody agrees on those requirements. Everybody agrees on what the deliverables are. Everybody agrees on what's being delivered. And then when you agree on what the requirements are and what the deliverables are, then we start talking about, well, what are the timescales for those deliverables? And we start agreeing on timescales from those deliverables. And in some cases, when you're dealing with real serious companies like Accuses or other serious companies, if you don't meet those timescales, then there might even be some form of penalties involved. I worked for a company once where if certain SLAs were not met, then there would be penalties. The company would get hit out of the bottom line. So when you run any project, whether it's or run a business or any kind of thing where you're delivering a product, because whether you're, whether I'm a software developer on a project team or whether I'm a project manager delivering a piece of software or if I'm a business owner, right? Most of the time, I'm delivering some form of product, right, to a consumer. Well, clarity is a pretty important thing. And I think DAZN have done nothing but confuse everybody. I don't think there's been any clarity whatsoever with this. 13th of June, Anthony Joshua announces groundbreaking DAZN deal. 8th of July, 2 weeks later, Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Usyk to be shown on Sky. To me, like I said before, it does seem to me like somewhere somebody's fucked up. Would you agree with that? Press 1 if you agree with that, or press 2 if you disagree. Would it seem to say to you that somewhere along the line here there's been some kind of miscalculation or some kind of fuck up? Because there are some people online who are saying, no, this is part of a big grand plan from DAZN. Like, this is part of their plan all along. It was always their plan to show all Anthony Joshua's fights, after the Usyk fight or something, or this is all part of some kind of grand plan. And I personally can't get my head around it, to be honest. But to me, you look at that, seems very, 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 very confusing. Doesn't seem like clarity at all's been delivered there. Seems like you've confused the customer as to what's been delivered and what's not been delivered, what they are actually getting and what they're not getting. You've given the customer the impression that they'll be getting all of Anthony Joshua's next fights on DAZN. Well, turns out the most important fight of his whole fucking career won't be shown on DAZN in the UK. I mean, this isn't just any fight, is it? This is the biggest fight of Anthony Joshua's career. It's not just any fight, is it? Oh, God. If he loses this fight, he's lost 3 out of his last 5 fights, right? He is out. Well, he's certainly out of the conversation of being an elite heavyweight fighter at that point. 3 of his last fight, he would have lost 3. If he loses to Usyk, he's lost 3 out of his last 5 fights. With all due respect to Anthony Joshua, right? You would struggle to market somebody as an elite, top of the line, be all and end all heavyweight when they just lost 3 out of their last 5 fights. You know, that's just my opinion. So I find that very, very interesting. Marco says DAZN is unstable, which is literally the worst thing any product can have when you're trying to flog it. And who knows? I mean, I don't know. I'm trying not to do too much DAZN bashing, but I find that bizarre. Johnny Bravo says, hopefully Eddie Hearn doesn't have an option on Usyk after he wins. Will be a joke. That I've heard that Usyk's a free agent. That's what's been put out on social media. That if Usyk wins or he loses, he'll be one of the biggest free agents in boxing. That's what I've heard. But it wouldn't surprise me if Usyk wins and DAZN went and chased after him with a shit ton of money. It wouldn't surprise me. They've blown money on a lot worse. I mean, they've been blowing money on Tevin Farmer and Jesse Vargas and fucking... Who's that kid? White Chocolate, Nikita Arbiabi. Nikita Arbiabi. Shevin says, losing 3 out of 5 fights is a huge deal when you fight once a year. Can't rebrand anyone after that. I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be hard for Anthony Joshua because Anthony Joshua's always been... And I knew this would come back to haunt him. Again, we started off by talking about anxiety problems and stuff. Anthony Joshua's always been marketed as indestructible, hasn't he? That's the problem, isn't it? If you look at his marketing, he's been marketed as the Terminator. Whenever you market somebody like that, whenever you market someone as the Terminator, once they lose, it's always very, very hard to bring them back. It depends on the manner of how they lose, right? But this is what I'm saying. It's the way he was marketed, wasn't it? Again, if you look at the way Tyson Fury's marketed, again, this is what I say. That's Shevin. I swear on my mother's life. Do you know when I said that? The first thing I said was, that's why they never let like Goldberg, Brock Lesnar, these guys. Wrestling's not a real sport, obviously, right? These guys are athletes, but wrestling's not a real sport, right? But if you look at wrestling, right? They sell pay-per-views based on men in pants pretending to fight. Like Shevin says, they don't let the Ultimate Warrior get beaten and pinned by a short, fat guy on 3 weeks' notice. They don't let cruiserweights come in the ring and fucking destroy Goldberg in the ring. They don't do that for a reason, because when you market somebody as being this big, muscle-bound, indestructible, invincible Terminator, he's the strongest, he's the hardest punching, he's a killer. When they lose, it's always very hard to bring them back and remarket them. Now, again, look at the way Tyson Fury is marketed. How is he marketed? Look. Marketed is the complete opposite to AJ. He is your everyday bloke, isn't he? Fury, look. They market Fury as, hey, he's just one of us. He's just like me. Look at him. That's how they market Fury. Like, Fury's your everyday guy. He's just really good at boxing. He's fat. You know, he cheats on his wife. He likes a bender. He sticks stuff up his nose. He's always in trouble. He's out kicking cabs. He likes to have a sing-song. He likes to go out and have a party. Look at him. He likes to have a party. Look how they market him. They market him as just some everyday... That's Tyson Fury, isn't he? Tyson Fury is just the fat bloke from across the street who just happens to be one of the greatest boxers that's ever lived. That's how he's marketed. Well, that's how he comes across. You know, even when Fury went to WWE, do you not find it funny? Do you know when Tyson Fury was on WWE? This guy went to WWE. As the fucking heavyweight champion, right? Was he not the WB? Oh, was he not? It's after he beat. But he went there as the Ring Magazine #1. He was the consensus #1 champion in heavyweight boxing. I think he was the Ring Magazine rated #1, right? When Fury went to WWE, did they market Fury as, look, he's his big killer? Because that's how they could have done it. They could have said, look, he's this big guy, 6'9". He's a legit boxer. He's not a fake fighter. He's a #1 heavyweight. He's legit. And they could have had him go in the ring and knock people over and killing people. And what did they have Fury doing when he was in WWE? Even when they marketed him, WWE was the same. It was the same when he look. Here's the one where he got injured when I obviously can't show the video, but here's the one where he got attacked from behind by Strowman, and he's sitting there, vulnerable, injured. Even when he was in WWE, they didn't make him out to be this big legit shoot fighter, this big legit killer. Oh, this guy's a shoot fighter. This guy's legit. He hits you with one punch, it's over, it's done. He's a legit boxer. They never marketed him like that, did they? They marketed him as look, they marketed Tyson Fury. They marketed him as he's a charismatic guy, but he's a beginner in the wrestling ring. He's learning. He's beatable. He's failable. And you see him on the floor holding his leg, getting injured, getting knocked about. That's smart. That's how you do it. That's how they market him. He's just a fat bloke. And he's just like one of us. He's got mental problems. He's got anxieties. He drinks too much. He smokes too much. He cheats on his wife too much. You know, parties too much. He does all sorts. And look how they market Anthony Joshua. Big, strong guy. Indestructible. Infallible. This guy's a machine. Why do you think he's so self-obsessed with how he comes across? Just does nothing but puts pressure on himself, doesn't he? He's got to be a machine. He's got to be in shape. Can't show any weakness. Can't show any weakness. Has to be the strongest guy in the gym. Has to be the toughest guy in the gym. Has to be the hardest puncher in the gym. Has to knock all these guys about. Can't go to points. When this fat bloke Fury goes to points against Otto Warden, what do we say? What do we say? That's just Fury, isn't it? That's just Fury, isn't he? He's not much of a knockout puncher. He's a boxer. He just goes for points. Oh, that's just Fury. He rises to the level of his competition, didn't he? Oh, that's just Fury. You know, wait till you see him in the big fights. Oh, that's just Fury. You know what Fury's like. Sometimes it can be boring to watch. It's just Fury. Don't mind him. He's just a fat bloke from across the road who likes to laugh. He's like one of us. What happens when he goes to points? AJ. Oh, is he losing it? Is AJ losing it? Oh, how come he didn't get that guy out of there? How come in that Ruiz rematch he stood off him? He looked weak, didn't he? In that Ruiz rematch, he looked vulnerable. He looked like he didn't want to get punched. What happened to the old AJ? What happened to the Destroyer AJ? What happened to the AJ that used to be in the O2 Arena with Tony Sims when he was out destroying everybody? He was fearless. He looked fearless, didn't he? He was knocking these guys out, and he looked fearless. What happened to him? Is it any wonder why he suffers from anxiety, really? When you put it in that perspective. Is it any wonder? It's a hell of a lot of pressure, isn't it? Not a lot of margin for error with Anthony Joshua, is there? Not a lot of margin for error there, is there? But that's what they built his brand on. Look at all this Under Armour shit. That's what they built his brand on. If you build your brand on being a machine, you need to be a machine 24/7. The minute you stop being a machine, that's the minute why people stop investing in you. Press 1 if you agree with me, press 2 if you disagree. Look at the way this guy's been marketed. He has to be a machine. He can't have off days. He can't have them. He can't look weak. Can't look weak. Can't look weak. Can't be weak. He's got to be the tough guy, isn't he? 24/7, he's got to be the strong guy. He's got to be the tough guy. He's got to be the strongest guy. Yeah, you know. And he's got to be that every single minute of his life. Can't slip up. Paps are watching him. When he goes out in Dubai, he's got people filming him with fucking smartphones everywhere. Everywhere he goes, he's got to be the tough man, isn't he? Imagine having to be Phil Mitchell 24/7. Can you imagine that? Having to be Phil Mitchell 24/7, but you can't switch off. You can't even say you're an actor. You have to be Phil Mitchell for the rest of your life. From the minute you wake up to the minute you go to sleep, around your wife, around your kids, around your best friends, around your trainers, around your sparring partners, around your promoters, you've got to be Phil Mitchell 24/7. 24/7. That's AJ, isn't it? That's AJ, isn't it? So if he loses again to Usyk and he loses 3 out of his last 5 fights, I'm not saying nobody will ever watch him again or whatnot, because I think he'll always be a draw to a degree, right? But what do you guys think? I think it might be a tough sell. It might be a tough sell if he loses to Usyk. I don't think he's going to lose to Usyk. Although I changed my mind a lot, but my gut says he won't lose to Usyk. My gut says we're going to see a very, very controversial decision. I don't think he will lose to Usyk. But if he loses 3 out of his last 5 fights, they might have to think about a plan B on how they market this guy, because they won't be able to market him the way they've marketed him any longer. The Ruiz fight, what was that? That was a mistake, right? Took the fight at short notice. He had an anxiety attack before the fight. He wasn't right. That was a mistake, right? Okay. The Usyk fight, what was that? That was a mistake as well, right? He went in the ring and it was all his corner's fault. He was given the wrong instructions on how to box. He didn't box how he could box. He didn't box how he should have boxed. He didn't box to his strengths, right? So we're letting him off that one. If he gets beat a 3rd time by Usyk, I won't. I don't care if he loses or not. I'll always respect anybody I'll always respect anybody who puts boxing gloves on and has a spar. You get my respect, ASAP. So all right, me, but I'm saying other people. It's going to be a hard sell in it for DAZN. So we'll see what happens after this deal. It's going to be very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. If you're Sky Sports, if you could have any one of Anthony Joshua's next fights, well, other than a Tyson Fury fight, right? It'd probably be this one, wouldn't it? If you're Sky Sports and you could take one of any of Anthony Joshua's next up and coming fights, other than the Fury fight, it might just be this fight, isn't it? It's probably the fight they wanted, isn't it? Other than the Fury fight, right? Because this is like, we're almost in the sort of the last chance saloon, isn't it, for Anthony Joshua? Aren't we? That's how this is kind of been marketed, isn't it? AJ versus Usyk. We're almost sort of in the last chance saloon, aren't we, with Anthony Joshua? Is he an elite level, all-time great heavyweight? Like, is he really like up there with the likes of a Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson? Like, a couple of years ago, people were saying he's up there with a Lennox Lewis. People were telling me on this channel a couple of years ago he beat Lennox Lewis. What is he? Is he really this guy who is up there with the Lewises, the Vitalis, the Vladimirs? Is he that kind of dominant heavyweight champion, the Tysons? Is he that kind of guy? Or is he just a non-top fighter? Is he just a non-top fighter? Is he just one of these guys who are really, really good at dishing it out? And when they're on top of the fight, they can dish it out But when they're not on top of the fight, when it starts getting tough, they don't quite have what it takes at the highest level. Is he Frank Bruno? That's the thing, Shevin, isn't it? Is he? And that's what this Usyk fight's going to show us, isn't it? I think this Usyk fight's going to show us: is he what people think he is? Is he this kind of generational Lewis, Vladimir, Vitali, Mike Tyson? Is he this kind of generational type heavyweight? Or is he closer to somebody like a Frank Bruno? Big, strong guy, a very, very, very heavy puncher. World class. I think he's better than Frank Bruno. I think, look, AJ's better than Frank Bruno. But do you know what I mean? Is he just one of these on-top guys? Where when things start getting a bit nip and tuck, he can't quite just get over the line in these nip and tuck fights. You know? He can't just quite get over the line. It was never a problem for Frank Bruno because Frank Bruno never modeled himself on being an immortal killer. So it was never a problem for Frank, was it? Frank never had that problem because Frank wasn't built on that, was he? Right, let's finish up. Final comments. Johnny Bravo says, I think Conor Benn will have the same problem when he loses too. It's very ironic you say that again. Conor Benn is another guy who's, again, the destroyer. Isn't that his nickname, right? He's a destroyer. He's just like his father. I think Barry Hearn came out and said about Conor Benn. Conor Benn's going to be a better fighter than Nigel Benn. He's out there. He's destroying all these guys in a round or two. Look at Conor. He's absolutely devastating. Not the same as AJ, but you can see the marketing, isn't it? This guy's a killer, just like his father. This guy's a destroyer. Nobody can beat this guy at the minute. Look, he's knocking these guys out. He's getting these guys out of there in 1 or 2 rounds. He's all this, he's all that, you know? I think he'll be all right. Conor will be all right. He will get beat, though, obviously. Why are you attacking me for, J-Don? I don't understand what your problem is. Why are you attacking me for no reason? What have I done? Johnny Bravo says, Eddie Hearn models his top guys the same way. Kidder, kidder, kidder. When they lose, they'll implode. We'll see. All right, listen. I've made an absolute fuck up of this stream. This stream was a fucking disaster. I've made a... These guys are making loads of money their boxers make. Well, Conor Benn makes a load of money, but Conor Benn had money before he started boxing. So I don't know what your point is. A lot of these boxers aren't making a lot of money. Oh, come on. Nah, we don't need to come on, J-Don. It's okay. We don't need you to come on the show. You'll be fine. We don't need you to come on. We'll get by. We'll get by, mate. We'll do okay. We'll hang on, mate. It's all right. You stay there. Nobody needs you to come on. We'll be okay. Conor will get Conor Bean will get found out when he's fighting world-class fighters. We might do. What's he saying now? Nah, I'll come on and put the heat on you. Put the heat on me for what? All right, hold on. I don't know where this has come from. As long as you make your point concisely, I don't mind. I don't know who I'm putting the heat on. All I'm saying is I don't know. There you go. Let me get my headphones on. I'll make this quick. Hold on. Let me just switch to my headphones. You can put the heat on me. I don't know what I've said that's upset you, but you can put the heat on me. 1 sec. But I'll tell you one thing, J-Don. It better be about what's being said in this stream. Don't go bringing up fucking old shit. Try to keep it on point. Hold on. How do I do this with the mic? So I'm just going to set up my headphones. Try to keep it on point. What have I said about Conor Benn and AJ? That's so bad. I don't understand it. I think I've been pretty sympathetic towards Anthony Joshua. So anyway, just to clarify before we get this going, all I've said is that when you market fighters like AJ and Conor Benn as being indestructible and being killers and being more so AJ, right? And you market them as being sort of undefeatable, right? Then when they lose, it can be very, very hard to market them again. I don't see what's controversial about saying that. That's all I've said about Anthony Joshua. That the man's lost 3 out of his last... If he loses to Usyk, he lost 3 out of his last 5 fights. So I'm just trying to turn my Bluetooth headphones on. They've marketed him on being a killer. And so it's going to be very, very difficult to market him again. One sec. Jadon's here. Let me just get my headphones. Sorry, so I want to be able to hear what's been said. So I need to get the fucking sound through my headphones. Otherwise, all you guys will hear is an echo. One second. Fucking hell. Just trying to turn on these Sennheisers. These won't work. I might switch to Sony. One sec. Let's switch to Sony. Fucking hell, man. Okay, right. Let's just see. Let's just see Sony's on. I'm only doing this because there are only 60 people listening to this shit show at the minute. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this. Okay, right. Let me just make sure I can hear the sound. Okay, right. I might have to switch off my keyboard because the Bluetooth headphones interfere. All right, Jadon, we can hear you.
Yes, hello. How's it going?
Okay, go on. Just talk away then.
What's that?
No, go on. Make your point then. Go on.
My point? No. All my point is, you know, obviously I've subscribed to you for a bit, but every time I come on, it's some fucking... You're always like either trolling Anthony Joshua or you're trying to troll some boxers, but I don't understand why.
So how have I trolled Anthony Joshua today? What have I said today? Because I think I've been quite sympathetic towards Anthony Joshua. I've started off by talking about my own anxiety and saying that I think Anthony Joshua has a bit of a hidden anxiety problem. So we all know he suffers from a bit of anxiety, but I think his anxiety might be a little bit more severe than what he's letting on. So what I've done is I started by talking about my own anxiety, and I talked about some of the anxiety that Anthony Joshua might be having in the run-up to fights and how it is to sort of live with that. And that's all we've been talking about, really. Just been a discussion about what it's like living with anxiety and say, look, you know, even some of the biggest, strongest, toughest guys can suffer with anxiety. And the last point I made was about the fact, the way that he's been marketed, as this indestructible, unhurtable, unbeatable killer.
I don't think he has.
It brings a lot of pressure. He hasn't. Oh, okay. Talk away. So, but you can.
How
you can
has
talk
he?
away on
He's
that.
lost. He's lost to Fat Ruiz, and he's lost. You know, how has he been marketed as this indestructible destroyer? He hasn't.
Yes, he has. Of course, he has. I would say yes. I would say things like Eddie Hearn's picked up the microphone a million times after his fights in the O2 Arena and said he's a monster. Barry Hearn said that he doesn't think anybody can beat Anthony Joshua. They said that Anthony Joshua would knock out Tyson Fury in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, about 5 years ago.
The record is saying that. But he's always been... But he was marketed as a destroyer, and then he got beat. That's how I feel about it.
That's what happens, isn't it?
Yeah, but you just said it didn't happen 2 minutes ago. You just said he wasn't marketed as a destroyer.
No, he's not.
You just said.
What are you on about, man?
Well, you just said he wasn't marketed.
He's not marketed now as a destroyer.
He's not marketed now. That's not what I said. That's not what I said. So now you're trying to play.
Yeah, he was marketed as a destroyer when he was knocking everyone out, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when he lost to Andy Ruiz, and then he got beat by Andy Ruiz, right? And what was that?
But we all knew what he was about, so it ain't a shock to us, is it?
It was what wasn't a shock?
It wasn't a shock that he got beat because we all know it was on the cards that it was coming, that he was going to get beat.
We all knew that was coming. Oh, I see, but not against Andy Ruiz, right? But I don't understand. I'm trying to get back to what your argument is because I don't think you've raised a counterpoint to my argument at all. Like, I don't think anybody in the chat listening to this thinks you've made a coherent counterpoint to my argument at all. So let me just make my argument one more time, right?
Yeah,
and then you can counter it, okay? So I don't see anywhere in this video that I've trolled Anthony Joshua. All I've done is simply made a point that this man has been under a lot of pressure and a lot of anxiety. And I think some of the pressure and some of the anxiety is due to some of the pressure that's been brought on him by his promoter, who I don't think has helped the situation, and by other people in the boxing media who said things like, if he loses to Ruiz again, he should retire and such and such.
Absolutely. You know what, mate? You know what? Why do you have to jump on things like AJ and it's his downfall, it's Eddie Hearn's fault and this and that? I mean, come on. Well, I don't understand your point. Like, what is your point? I don't understand.
Is this what you called up for?
Yeah, I've called up because I've called up and we're having a chat, man. It's cool. You can't try and belittle me, mate, because I've told you, as I told you before, Anthony Joshua, we all knew what he was about. It's as simple as that, isn't it? Why have you got to talk about promoters and this and that? Who gives a fuck?
You haven't really counted anything I've said. So how am I trolling AJ? Just give me an example of how I trolled AJ in this video.
That's a stupid question.
It's a You said that I'm trolling Anthony Joshua. All I've asked you
I'm not
in this video.
Yeah,
no,
you do though, don't you? Not just AJ. You troll everyone.
So what have I said in this video that's trolled a boxer? Because you accused me of trolling boxers. What have I said in this video that's trolled a boxer?
Come on, I know it's all a good laugh. We all troll every boxer.
No, I understand. So what have I said? Tell me, what have I said here in this video that's trolled a boxer today?
I don't know in this video because I've just jumped on the fucking.
Chat. I see. You just jumped on the chat. Did you? What? So you just jumped on the chat?
Yeah, because I follow your channel, innit? I've jumped on your chat.
Do you think that sometimes it's helpful if we listen to the context of what people say before we make judgments about people?
No, because listen, mate, I've followed your channel for over a year, 2 years, whatever it is, however long you've done it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I know what you're about and that. You do troll fighters and that, and it is funny. I know, I understand that. But I think it's a bit weird now. You're always going on about Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua, man. Come on.
What's the title of this video? What have you seen the title for this video?
I can't see it, can I?
No. The title for this video is "Does Anthony Joshua suffer from anxiety? Okolie accuses Eddie Hearn of being a slave owner." That's the title of this topic. So, talking about today's show.
I've got a question.
No, hold on. I don't need to change the topic. I'm quite keen on you answering the question. Because the only reason I'm on here, the only reason I've allowed you to come on here, the only reason I've allowed you to come on here is because I'm quite keen. You've accused me of trolling a fighter, right?
You troll every
I'm talking about in this
man.
episode, right? So I'm talking about today in this episode, right?
Today.
Right, today. So, okay, so what you're saying is you haven't got a problem with anything that I've said in today's episode. Is that what you're saying? You haven't got a problem with anything I've said in today's episode?
Why are you trying to put words into my mouth, bro?
So, okay, have you got a problem with something that I've said in this episode today? Because you've asked to call in today, and we're trying to stay on topic here. So I'm asking you, do you have a problem with something that I've said today on today's episode?
Bro, listen, what are you going on about, man? You're asking me. Listen, you're like a politician, you are, bro. I've not got a problem with anything that anyone says because anyone can say what they want, can't they? Yeah. All as I'm trying to say is it's a bit weird how you always it's a bit weird, man, like about AJ and Eddie Hearn and this anxiety. Like, let's just watch the fights. Who cares?
What have I said that's weird about the anxieties? You've raised anxiety. What's weird that I've said about anxiety? What's weird about that?
Well, I don't know because I've just jumped on the stream, haven't I? But that's just by the by, isn't it? That's a ridiculous question.
You don't know because you've just jumped on the screen. So you think there's something weird about me talking about
anxiety? You're not listening, are you?
But you don't know what I'm talking about regarding Anthony Joshua's anxiety because you haven't listened to any of the episodes. Do you not think that's a bit strange?
No, you're not listening, are you?
Okay, go on, explain it again. And I'll ask you the question one more time, okay? And then you explain to me the answer, okay? What is weird about me talking about anxiety and Anthony Joshua? What's weird about me talking about
Because
my
what's weird about that, bro? Are you mad? Come on, what's weird?
No, go on, tell me. Oh, tell me. We're all listening. Tell us all.
Why don't you just watch the fights?
No, that's not answering the question. What's weird about it? Tell us all.
Because that's a bit fucking too far, really, innit? Come on.
Why?
Why? Well, that's a bit like. Do you not just watch the fights and talk about the fights?
Yeah, we do all the time. But I suffer from anxiety, and so I think Anthony Joshua suffers from anxiety. There's people watching this chat who suffer from anxiety, and sometimes we like to talk about it.
Yeah, that's
what we're
cool.
talking about.
Cool. No, I feel that. I just think it's a bit fucking. You're just overthinking things, man.
No, I don't think so. I don't think we're overthinking things at all. I think if you looked at this show, this is from Anthony Joshua. I now understand that the good has to come with the bad, stated Joshua. It can't be sunshine forever. There have to be stormy times as well. I went through a rough patch, but I dealt with it and it taught me a lot. Information is key. It used to be reserved for kings and queens, but now we have access. Absorb all that. It will help you in that anxiety moment because subconsciously there might be one piece of information that gets through. So I don't think I'm saying anything that's honest. Sorry, can I excuse me? Can I finish my point? I don't think I'm saying anything that's unfair. What inspired me to actually talk about anxiety and Anthony Joshua? It's actually Carl Froch's recent interview on IFL TV. The reason why is because a lot of people are saying...
I don't watch that channel anymore. It's absolute trash.
Okay. A lot of people are saying that the key to him winning the fight is his mental approach and that he needs to believe in himself. In fact, his new coach, Robert Garcia, also talked about that his problems are mental. That there's some of the problems that he has of doing things in the ring and carrying out his plans are mental. So I don't think it's weird to talk about his anxiety or his anxiety. I mean, he's a guy who, when he went into the Andy Ruiz fight, what was the major excuse for him losing against Andy Ruiz? He had a panic attack that was caused by anxiety just before the fight.
Okay, I hear that. Can you listen to my
so he has a long history of anxiety. He's going into the biggest fight of his career. His trainer's talking about managing his mental side as the key point of victory. Carl Froch and other people are talking about managing your mental state is the key
fair
side.
Enough, but what's he got to do? He's got to go in there and do a job, hasn't he? That's the simple fucking answer to it. He's got to go in there. He's got to throw his weight. He's got to fucking get behind the jab.
Well, who says there's a simple answer? Who's saying that?
Well, I am, because that's what it is, isn't it?
But no one cares what you think.
No. Bro, okay then. Let me just make this point, okay? Yeah.
Okay, go on then. Make your point then. Go on.
All right then. What do you follow football or do you follow a football team? Hello.
Carry on.
Yeah. Do you follow a football team?
No.
You don't. All right then. So, imagine if every game that was played, in the Premier League, the race for the title, when Manchester City had to win every single game in the last few games, and there was some talk about some player that wasn't performing because of this and because of that, it wouldn't happen, would it? So why in boxing do we have to delve into these situations and these things that really, it is what it is, isn't it? He knows what he's got to do. He's got to go in there and he's got to do a job a lot better than last time, hasn't he? That's all.
Well, I think, like I said, football's different because football, I think we have had chats, to be honest, about footballers and their mental state before they go into games. I'm pretty sure. I can't think of the names off the top of my head, but I will look at it. I'm pretty sure when in the past we talked about players like, I'm going back a long time, when we talked about players like Gascoigne, and you get these players that are very, very mercurial. And some days they're up for it, and some days they're not up for it, and they have problems out of the ring. They have problems with their mental state.
When you're a Manchester City player, though.
Excuse me. Can I make one more point? Can I give you an example of somebody? George Best. Guys, what do you think about the chat? I don't think there's ever a better example of that than somebody like George Best.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the Manchester City and the Liverpools, the teams that are having to win every single game.
Manchester
I'm talking about Anthony Joshua, the so-called heavyweight guy.
George Best played for Manchester United?
No, I'm saying about the last season, Manchester City. They had to win.
Right. So we can talk about football, but we can only talk about last season. So what I'm trying to say is, look, in football before, there have been players, right, who have been known as mercurial, where they've known to have mental issues, and or problems outside of the pitch that have affected their performance, and they have been known as mercurial. And part of the discussions and the narratives around those players have been, if X player turns up today and if he's on it, he could be great in this game. It depends on what kind of player we get.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen in the elite teams.
And anyway, football's a team sport. Football's not a one-on-one sport anyway. So I don't think it's even a one-to-one comparison. Because football's not 1v1, it's a team sport. Anyway, I don't think you've made a compelling argument thus forth. So it is what it is. Listen, I'll give you 30 more seconds to slag me off or say whatever you want to say about anything.
I don't want to slag
I don't think.
I think we've had a good chat, man.
I don't. Okay. All right. Well, listen. Have you got anything else to say before you would like to leave it at that? Because feel free. Vent your opinions.
Yeah. Right. No. What do you do for work?
I think everybody knows what I do for work. I work in software.
Yeah. So you sat in front of a computer all day.
That is correct.
And you don't socialise with other people.
Not often. Well, I do. Yeah, you socialise, but not often in person.
No, because that comes across.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yeah, well, it does because you're a bit smarmy.
Okay, that's a fair point. But can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Who do you think's coming across better right now, me or you?
Who's what coming across better?
Yeah, right now. Who do you think's coming across better right now?
Because I'm a real man and I'm not a fucking smarmy little person like you.
I'm a swarmy little person. Okay. I think personally that I'm able to conduct myself, and I think I'm a lot better at getting a concise, logical point across than you.
Nah.
Now, no, I think so. Do you think you sound logical right now? Do you think you sound logical? Like the way you're talking, like when you go and listen back to this, do you think you sound logical? Do you think you sound like somebody who's not under the influence right now? Because most people who listen to this now will be thinking you're under the influence, which is why I'm quite keen to not say anything sort of untoward. Because do you know what I mean? I don't, but it does sound to me and to most people here like you're under the influence of something. It doesn't seem like you're of 100% sound mind right now.
See, you've just proved my point right there, haven't you?
Okay, go on, talk away, go for it.
But you're trying to take the moral high ground with different things and this and that, and asking me these silly questions that I haven't even spoke about. You're asking me these questions that I haven't even fucking thought about. You know what I mean? Like, you're just throwing stuff out there. Instead of talking to me, you're just absolutely asking me these questions that don't even fucking make sense.
I would disagree with that, but we'll let the audience decide on that. But I asked you genuinely, like, if you think that you're making sense. So it is what it is. But you think you are?
Of course, I'm making sense. You know what I'm saying? I'm making sense.
I don't.
Just because I'm not as intellectual as you, mate, it don't mean that I'm not making sense, does it? Come on. That's my point right there. You try and fucking think that you're some higher up guy.
Just give me a sec. D-Dubs, if you're going to go, just go. All right? Listen, we're going to carry this on for like another 20 seconds a minute. So if you're going to go. Don't spam my chat, man. Yeah, no, Jadon, honestly, it does sound like you're under the influence. You don't sound coherent to me. So I'm just going to be honest with that. I'm not trying to put you down. You don't sound coherent.
So that's your end argument then?
No, look, my end argument is that...
it is, that's all you can say.
Well, hold on a minute, let me tell you what it is.
I've come on your channel and I've put questions to you, and all you've done is swerve the questions and ask me questions, and then said, oh, you're under the influence, oh, I'm the best. I'll sit behind a computer all day, look at me.
That's not what's happened at all. What's happened here is you've come on here and accused me, right? You've come on here first and foremost and accused me of saying things in an episode which I haven't even listened to, which was red flag number one.
No, because I'm talking about
hold on. Let me speak or I'm going to beat you. Let me just finish what I'm saying. Hold on. You've come on here. You haven't even listened to the content of the episode, right? You haven't even listened to the content of the episode, and you've come on here in a very, very combative manner, right? And you confronted me about trolling. I've asked you, what have I said in this episode right, in regards to trolling.
I've told you I don't.
Hold on. You haven't been able to produce a single piece of evidence in regards to that. We've then spoken about anxiety. You've then told me it's weird to talk about anxiety, despite the fact that you haven't even listened to this episode and you don't even know what the fuck we're talking about, which is another red flag.
No, I've then explained to
you why we're talking about anxiety, why we're talking about anxiety in relation to Anthony Joshua, and why certain people on this channel find it helpful that other people are talking about anxiety.
Ah, so you're taking the moral high ground again, mate.
And you haven't raised any counterpoint to that. So
my counterpoint is why do you have to talk about all this and all that? Why don't you just watch the fights?
I talk about it. The reason why I talk about it is because it's something that I personally experienced myself. It's something that other people personally experience.
But you've just ripped me for being under the influence.
I haven't ripped you for being under the influence. You said that you think you're making logical common sense. I've said to you right now, I can't decipher what your argument is. You're not making any common sense. Nobody watching this thinks you're on common sense.
I am making sense. What I'm saying is why don't you just watch the fights?
Nobody in the comment section thinks you're making sense, and I can't understand what you're saying. And it sounds like you are on the influence. That's all I've said to you. I haven't ripped you at all. I've said that you don't sound like you're making sense.
Why don't you just watch the fights instead of making videos about this and that?
I can make videos about what I want. If you don't like what I make videos about, don't fucking watch them.
I do like what you make videos about.
I don't give a shit what you like. If you don't like my topic, if you don't like what I talk about, excuse me. If you don't like what I'm talking about, right, if you don't like it, don't listen. That's simple. Nobody's asking you to watch. Nobody's asking you to listen.
You don't have to go.
Right? You're not my boss. You're not my boss. You're not paying me.
Oh, I've touched a nerve.
So if you don't like it, just go away.
I like it.
And let people who do enjoy it, and let people who do enjoy the topic, let them watch it in peace and just go on with your life and move on.
I like it. I like your channel. You don't have to get all upset, bro.
All right, bro. Thank you very much for the argument. I appreciate your time, and I hope you have a good rest of the day. Okay.
All right then, mate.
Take care, yourself. Okay. You can't say I don't talk to people. That's the reason why we don't have people calling in anymore. But look, like I said before, it's a small show and nobody's watching, so it is what it is. Look, everybody's entitled to their opinion about me. That was bizarre, but it was what it was. Daryl, respectful ending. Look, these people just come and attack me for no reason. I don't know, but it is what it is. Look, I've got to be careful what I say here, yeah? But I'll leave it at this, right? Do you remember what I said to you last week on last week's show? Like, when you have some kind of following on social media, it does open your eyes up to some interesting characters that are out there. You know, I've seen a lot of stuff. I've had threats. I've had death threats. I've had people make the weirdest videos about me. I've had people send me the weirdest emails. And sometimes we have people phoning in with some of the weirdest phone calls. I don't know. I couldn't quite decipher what he was upset about, to be honest. It was what it was. I couldn't understand it, but it is what it is. J-Don ended it saying he likes what you put out, even though his argument was against your concept. I'm struggling to. I just don't get it. It was like being in Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio. You're always trolling fighters. Why are you talking about this? You're always trolling fighters. Like, well, okay, don't watch then. Well, I like your content. I had a conversation with that once with a guy called what was his name? Tyrone something. What was his name? Jesus Christ. I had this guy email me. Was it Tyrone something? Oh my God. It was just, but this guy would accuse me of, oh, J-Don's back. He's back in the chat. You got, J-Don, I'm shook. Honestly, I am shook. J-Don, I am shook. I'm very fearful that you will beat me up. I'm scared of you. 100% J-Don. You can take that to the bank. That's the one, Toby. Tyrone Brooks. Oh my gosh. Jesus fucking Christ. This guy, Tyrone Brooks, he would attack my mum. What would he attack? He would say, I'm not really a black guy, which I proved I was. Do you remember I proved I was a black guy when I did those videos of myself on the heavy bag? So I proved that. Remember that? Ultra's a fake black guy. He's not really a black guy. Your mum's this, your mum's that. You're not really this, you're not. I mean, this guy was just at me, right? This guy was at me, right? I was everything under the sun, right? Yeah, that's the one, Games You Love. Yeah, you need to prove you're a black guy. Come and fight me. Come and fight me. I'll have a friendly spar with you. Your mum's this, your mum's that. Everything under the sun. And I just said to him, look. I said to him one time, right? This is on another chat. I said, what's your problem with me? If you don't like this show, just don't listen to it. And do you know what he goes? He goes, oh mate, no, I like the show. I enjoy watching it. And I was like, well, why are you saying all this shit about my mum then? It's bizarre. Like, these people are absolutely out there, man. They're on a different level, you know. Tyrone Brooks, that guy was on a different planet, man. Your mum's this, you're not black, you're fake. Come and spar me, come and fight me. And I was like, oh, the ages like just Tyrone. I've blocked you on like 2 or 3 different accounts. You keep making up new accounts to come on this channel and come back. Every time I block you, you come back on a new account. Like, what's your problem? Like, if you don't enjoy the show, just don't watch it. No, I enjoy the show. It's just that my problem's like this. You don't understand, Jay. You get some of the most bizarre people who will contact you about all kinds of bizarre shit. Trust me. All right. Bloody hell, Jay's still in the chat. No, Jay, no one wants to have a debate with you anymore. It's enough, Jay. No more debates, Jay. Jay, no more debates, please. I don't want to ban Jay, but fuck me. This is getting painful, isn't it? We're not even talking about you, Jay. We're talking about Tyrone Brooks. We're not even talking about you. Jay says, I spoke like a man. Yeah, you spoke like a man who'd had about 1 too many cans of Stella, to be honest, Jay, but it is what it is. Toby Players says, yeah, I still have the screen recording of when he called in. Oh, yeah, and then Tyrone called in and shit. Do you remember that? I still have the screen recording of when me, you, and Shevin were talking about Dillian White, and Tyrone kicked in. Tyrone called in, and you kicked. Oh my god, it was mental, wasn't it? He would call in and shit. Like, why are you listening to something that you don't like, and you're phoning in and making up all these accounts and shit? Crazy stuff. All right, right, yeah. And listen, I'm not a very good debater either. I'm not a very good debater by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, there's guys on YouTube who do boxing debates that would destroy me. I'm not very good at it. I'm not very good at getting my opinions out there concisely. I'm not a very skilled debater, but I think I made more sense than Jadon. It is what it is. Guys, it's been hopefully an entertaining show today. And I don't know. What time is it? I was supposed to do work today. Oh, I can't do that. Ultra, what's your opinion on Boris Johnson stepping down? I can't give you that. I can't, because YouTube will ban me. I can't talk about that kind of stuff. I can't. So YouTube doesn't like it if I talk about that stuff. Crazy D3 says, bro, man's reaching out, Ultra. Maybe he wants help. Listen, let me tell you something. I'm not trying to sound Mother Teresa, but I will help people who need help. Like, mainly financially, really. I help people. You know, the only reason why it's hard to help people is because I don't want to give people my my bank number, my bank details. Because when you send people money, they get your bank details. There should be a way of anonymously transferring money so people don't know where it came from. If it did, I'd give people loads of it. There's quite a few people online who are going through hard times who I wouldn't mind giving money to, but I don't want them getting my fucking details. Maybe there's some way of doing it via PayPal, actually. I wonder if there's some way of doing it via PayPal, but it is what it is. Bitcoin, yeah, I'm not too. Sharon knows, yeah. I try to help. And honestly, the funny thing is, like, I get a lot of flack from people, and I've had flack for years. But I always say it, like, I don't put adverts in, I don't do super chats, I just try and just chat a bit, and it is what it is, and I feel like I have a right to say what I want to say, If I was charging people money, then maybe I could be a little bit more responsible. If people are actually paying for something, like people are paying for a membership or something, but they're not. So I think I have the right to just say my piece. So it's only my opinion at the end of the day. I don't know why my opinion upsets people and threatens people so much, but it is what it is. But on Boris Johnson, I will say this. I never voted for Boris Johnson. I wouldn't vote for Boris Johnson, I don't think. It depends. I'm pro-Brexit, but I wouldn't vote for Johnson. The only reason I wouldn't vote for Boris Johnson was he's the kind of guy who will, in my opinion, I don't know where he stands, if that makes sense. And a lot of right-wingers feel that way about Boris Johnson. Like, we don't really know where he stands as a politician. Is he even really a true conservative? I don't know. He seems to say whatever he thinks will get him elected at any one point in time. That's the kind of point I'm trying to make. And if you look at the whole thing about Brexit, where the day before Brexit, the day before I think he decided if he was going to support Remain or if he was going to support Leave, he wrote something like 2 completely different articles for the same newspaper, one supporting remaining in the EU and one leaving the EU. And then what did he do? And then at the last minute, like, he picked a position. I don't know. Like, I haven't explained that very well, but I don't know what he really believes in, Boris Johnson. I don't know if he really believes it for anything. That was trying to get me in trouble and get me done here. Ultra, what are the benefits of Brexit for the common man in the street, in your opinion? I've got to be very, very careful what I say here, but I think the number one reason why people vote for Brexit is because people want this country to control its borders. And that's what I'll say about that. That's what I think. I think that's the number one reason why people are interested in Brexit. They want this country to control its borders. Period, point blank. Being in the EU, there are big question marks over how much control this country has over its own borders. And that's a very, very big thing. And that's something that does affect, believe it or not, that is an issue that does affect the bottom line of it is, right? Yeah, let's stop it. Yeah, let's stop it. Let's leave it at that. All right. Yeah, let's leave it at that. So that's my opinion, yeah, on that. All right. Chisora versus Pulev. Yeah? What time's that on? Today's been a howler, isn't it? Today has been an absolute howler. But we have Chisora versus Pulev. Hopefully, this fight is going to cheer us up. Do you know what? It'll probably be a good fight as well. Because Pulev's on the decline. Pulev's on the decline. And Chisora is the perennial punching bag, isn't he, of the heavyweight division. So, fingers crossed we're going to get a good fight. Yeah? Martin Butler thinks it's going to be at 10:30. All right, well, let's see. If we still have a YouTube channel at 10:30, then we'll go live for Chisora and Pulev. Take care. Peace out.